All green, everything.
On the jersey.
Soda on the table, bums in a staircase. Hip-hop was a soundtrack, used to steal tapes. Locked up young, yeah, we never scared straight. From juvenile detention to catching jail phase. Colorblind, can't see Dallas Green. North Station, make our status scene. Show off crew, yeah, vital static beats. It's different here. Free Karen Reed, bring it back. 18 banner rap, patents clean like patchwork in a hand hat. Underground, and they ain't even a fan of that. Whatever challenge brings, yo, we standing pat. Had him on the podcast, can't lose his ego. Exaggeration of self never moved the needle. Compassion is power, watch what you do to people. Don't want to better themselves, so they use the ego.
Amazing.
Amazing. When do you think we're going to close it out? It's going to be a sweep, or we're going to close it out in 5?
Sweet.
A sweep?
Static select.
Show off. I bleed green. Legendary.
One word to describe this Celtics team, what would it be?
Dominance.
It's 5 games, 6 games. What do you think?
Might as well get the fucking brooms out because it's going to be a sweep.
Static select.
Term. The static.
I bleed green. Legendary.
If you had one word to describe this Celtics team, what would it be?
I would say they're murderers like the Canton Police Department.
Oh! So let me ask you this, my man. Let me ask you this. Is Karen Reed guilty or not guilty?
Karen Reed's fucking not guilty. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. Kyrie's guilty. Karen Reed is not guilty.
North Station, make our status scene. Show off crew, yeah, vital static beats. It's different here. Free Karen Reed, bring it back. 18 banner rap, patents clean.
Wow, I just want to thank JFK, Show Off, Terminology, Static Selector, Rex. They got a new track, Bleed Green. JFK, give it a shout out. Free Karen Reed. You saw it. You saw the video. He's going to be on here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. He's a great local hip hop artist. I've been a fan of all those guys for years. Static Selector, the producer, Terminology. I think a lot of people know him. These guys, some of them have blown up big nationally, and they just put out their new Celtics. They put a Celtics theme song like every year. They go down to the Garden and they do Man on the Street. And this year, Karen Reed came up. And we're going to have him on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We're going to have a great show. Tonight, we got attorney Mark Bederow, obviously. Everyone's waiting for him. I just decided to start early because I wanted to play that video, promote that, and I also wanted to give my little rant. I guess I'm going to be a school teacher tonight. I'm going to do stuff to open the show. Like, you're going to have to deal with 1 minute of me being a school teacher tonight, which I don't like to do. There's a reason why I used to be a school teacher. Now I'm not. I never liked to be disciplining other people. I'm wicked excited about that song that came out, that track with JFK. I know he's been watching our show. He's been commenting. Static Selector, huge producer. He's got his hip-hop channel on Shady 45. You can hear that on Sirius Internet Radio, XM, whatever they call it, XM Radio, Sirius Radio. They put this together. I was wicked excited for it. It's just really fun to see this, to see these guys that I'm a fan of put out a song, and it's related to Karen Reed, and they're promoting the Karen Reed angle. So I'm wicked excited about that. So I'm wicked pumped up on that. I'm pumped that we have Bederow back tonight. I'm pumped that we got to 25,000, but the school teacher shit, this is the stuff that pisses me off, actually. Our chat has been mostly awesome, phenomenal. Our moderators are awesome. A lot of people notice that our chat is like a community, very friendly. However, in the last couple of days, I've seen some crap that just pissed me off, literally pissed me off. And I'm just telling you, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're giving us membership money. I don't care if you're giving us Venmo, Cash App. If you're an asshole, if you're rude, nasty to people we have on this show, you're gone. You'll be lucky if you get suspended for 24 hours. Because at this point, I used to say to my mods, moderate very lightly, try to get people to be more positive, encourage people to be nice, moderate lightly. At this point, I'm saying gloves off because people have been nasty in that chat. You saw it the other night with Mazza Media. Kathleen, they went after because she was wearing a mask at a public meeting. After all that woman has done for the Free Karen Reed movement, some of you goofs are going off because she's wearing a mask to protect one of her relatives. So that shit's got to stop. And if you do that, you're out of here. You're not part of the community. I don't care how much money you give us. You're even going after me for noting that 92% of the Mass State Police are men, and that maybe if we had some women in there, we wouldn't have so much misogyny with the Mass State Police. Call me a libtard. I mean, come on. Be nice in the chat. If you're not, you're out. I don't give a shit. So that's it. That's my school teacher rant. And hopefully we're going to have Attorney Bederow up here and Mazza Media in a minute. I think it's 6:32. They should be here any minute now. Shoo. I think I got that out. Let me make sure those guys have the right stream because I don't see them yet. They should have been here a minute or two ago. But I had to. I'm a little. It bothered me. Oh, I guess I didn't send them a link. Hold on. They're waiting for the link. Hold on, guys. Let me get them the link. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play the video again. And this video I'm going to be playing. I put it on my YouTube. We're playing it tonight. I'm going to play it tomorrow night. We got licensing. I'm paying for the licensing on YouTube, which I like. It's cool. The money goes back to the artists. So thank you for kicking in. We're investing in these artists to play this song tonight on YouTube. And I'm wicked happy about it. So let me play this again, and then we'll get Bederow up.
Green. Bleed green. Bleed green. Bleed green.
AGE. All green, everything. Soda on the table, bums in a staircase. Hip-hop was a soundtrack, used to steal tapes. Locked up young, yeah, we never scared straight. From juvenile detention to catching jail phase. Colorblind, can't see Dallas Green. North Station, make our status scene. Show off crew, yeah. Vital static beats, it's different here. Free Karen Reed, bring it back. 18 banner rap, patents clean like patchwork in a hand hat. Underground, and they ain't even a fan of that. Whatever challenge brings, yo, we standing pat. Had him on the podcast, can't lose his ego. Exaggeration of self never moved the needle. Compassion is power, watch what you do to people. Don't want to better themselves, so they use the ego.
Amazing.
Amazing. When do you think we're going to close it out? It's going to be a sweep, or we're going to close it out in 5?
Sweet.
A sweep?
Static selector.
Show off. I bleed green. Legendary.
One word to describe this Celtics team, what would it be?
Dominance.
It's 5 games, 6 games. What do you think?
Might as well get the fucking brooms out because it's going to be a sweep.
Static selector.
Show off. I bleed green. Legendary.
If you had one word to describe this Celtics team, what would it be?
I would say they're murderers like the Canton Police Department.
Oh! So let me ask you this, my man. Let me ask you this. Is Karen Reed guilty or not guilty?
Karen Reed's fucking not guilty. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. Kyrie's guilty. Karen Reed is not guilty.
Awesome. Make sure you follow JFK Show Off on YouTube. Thank you, Miss Shorty. Gifted 10 memberships. Let's bring up the guest right now. Tomorrow night we'll be live with JFK. What's up, Mazza Media?
What's going on, Mike? Here we go. Here we go. Karen Reed's not fucking guilty. Like, that's what he just said right there with that accent. I love it. Love it. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Here we go. It's Saturday night. Here we go.
Ready to go. We got Attorney Bederow back. Everyone's just looking for him. How you doing?
Himself.
Okay, you didn't warn me about the Celtics Townie video. That was good stuff.
You like that? I love that. That was great.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
we're
JFK
having
in
a
the
good
comments
time.
saying, thanks, bro. Awesome stuff, JFK.
Yeah, he's great. I love. We're gonna have him on tomorrow night. It's amazing to see musicians jumping in the fray. I've seen some other songs too come out recently. Like that's like the third artist I've seen doing a Karen Reed song. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome stuff.
Somebody played some mix thing yesterday while we were there of a bunch of cut-ups of from Jackson's cross-examinations, probably of Proctor mostly and others, and it's this kind of rap song with his cut ups in it, and it's out there somewhere. It's hilarious. You got to hear it. Somebody must have it.
We'll look for that one. I'm sure people will
Yeah.
send it to us now in the Twitter or the chat later. So you were there yesterday, Attorney Bederow. Mazda Media was there the day before. What did you think yesterday, especially with this jury controversy going on? What was your day like?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is the amount of supporters that go there, and I'm told that's every day. And you see it online, but to see that many people that are out there, even in a torrential rainstorm at some point yesterday, that was something else to see that kind of support. So, and there's kind of a little crazy too, people dressed up as the judge, and I didn't see the solo cup guy. I was kind of hoping to see that, but there was
best costume since Daniel LaRusso and the shower curtain and the Karate Kid.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then when they all pull in, it's like a presidential motorcade that everyone wants to run up to. It's really something else. And psychologically, that's probably so great for them and her family. But on the other hand, that's got to be demoralizing for the DA to see that. I mean, it's overwhelming. So that was the first takeaway. The second takeaway that I had is how nice Karen Reed's family is. They are like really, really nice people. Her parents, her brother, her cousin, other supporters. I just can't tell you how nice and steadfast they are in believing in her and fighting and whatnot. And it's really, so that was interesting to see. As far as Karen herself, really, really strong, or as I like to say, she's made of strong stuff. She seems pretty, in dealing with people in her situation in the past, a lot of people will turtle up, they'll get nervous, they'll just be depressed, despondent. They don't necessarily want to help in their own defense, or they're just not capable, or they just go up, they go down, which is understandable. And, just in talking to her briefly, privately, and then observing her generally, that's not her at all. She's really strong in terms of fighting it. So take that for what it's worth, but that's pretty rare. The courtroom itself is a closet. Frankly, it's embarrassing that a case of this magnitude would be held in such a dump, but that's the only alternative, so that you have to do with what you do. The case itself yesterday was mostly boring. It was a lot of lally time on kind of so-called expert witnesses. So it was, not the most riveting testimony in the world. And I did not fall asleep, contrary to what some thought, but I will confess to coming close, very close a few times. So,
I was teasing you. I don't know if you saw.
No, I don't know, but I definitely was feeling it and could feel like you need to stay awake.
I actually
it's the Lally effect, it's the Lally effect.
It happened to me. I was teasing you that you were going to fall asleep, and it actually happened to me while I was streaming the court case, and then it started buffering, and the buffering woke me up, and it was Lally I actually did fall asleep, so I was the one who fell asleep.
It is much worse in person than
facts,
because at least you can get up and splash water on your face, go get something to drink. All I can do is shift in my seat, which
whack your face.
That's how I try
yourself.
to keep myself awake. Shift around, and at one point, look, if my mind wanders, and I'm used to listening to this stuff all the time, I can assure you the jury is wandering at times. But there was at one point when the so-called accident reconstruction expert, I refuse to call him an expert, he's a so-called we can talk about that in a minute. But when he started talking, no, I did not nod off, whoever that, I almost did. I did not fall asleep, but it was close. But during his testimony at one point, he was talking about using drones, and that actually woke me up, because I kind of chuckled and said, I'm listening to a drone question a witness about drones. It was just so, it was just so awful to listen to. But as far as the juror thing in the morning, it's the judge's fault. She didn't tell them about that she was bringing jurors out. So, I understand one of the jurors, or I guess I should say one of the former jurors, was caught on film. That really wasn't the camera guy's fault. Nobody told them they're bringing out a juror. So they did get rid of a juror yesterday. That's why they ended up killing the stream early. There was no crazy conspiracy going on inside the courtroom. I'm sure everybody thought there was. It was really just dealing with what to do about a juror who ultimately was dismissed. And then I think as a matter of punishment, the judge took the ruler and slapped it across the wrist of the camera guy and said, no more camera for, until timeout is over. She put him in timeout for an hour or so and then decided, I made my point and here we go again. So that's all that was. That was juror stuff and finger wagging by the judge to the bad cameraman.
Too, I was streaming that and I didn't even notice it. Like, I don't think anyone would have noticed it if they hadn't drawn attention. Like, my girlfriend did radio for years. The FCC is always a concern when you're doing live radio if a guest swears. They always say, like, if somebody swears on their air, don't draw our attention to it. That's like the worst thing you can do, because then someone might report you if you draw attention to it. So pretend it didn't happen and move on. And I mean, that's what the judge should have done to me. Drawing attention to it made it even worse, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Bederow?
Well, yeah. I mean, in a case like this where everyone is so wound up and, everyone is accusing everyone who thinks differently of them and being in some kind of conspiracy, whether it's favorable or unfavorable, the worst thing you can do is, without explanation, just kill the camera. I mean, yeah, I agree. But, the jurors should not have been pictured. That's a definite no, especially in a case like this. So, I mean, but the reality is the judge should have said, Mr. Cameraman, we're bringing in a juror, and nobody said it. So it's kind of tough to blame whatever he must have been.
Camera guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just a camera guy. I mean, no one told him. He got rid of it right away as soon as he realized that a juror was coming out there. When they did the rest of the jury stuff at the bench, it wasn't on camera and they did their business, and then off she went, and that was that.
Have you ever seen something this insane go down in court like this ever in your career as an attorney?
No, I mean, we have cameras in the courtroom all the time, and there are times that a judge will give instructions, no jury, sometimes no witnesses, depending on what the parties agree to or what the judge rules in their discretion. Every now and then you actually will get a prosecutor who's afraid of the camera, which is pretty weak, but, and they'll say, don't put the witness, just there can be rules. And, they're generally followed, but certainly if there was a concern about not filming something, remember, they weren't filming the normal jury box. They weren't breaking the rules. They're not supposed to film the jury box. They were filming towards, her sidebar area, which is the most prominent part of the trial, as there's more stuff there than there is anywhere else. And that's where he was filming because she called them up for sidebar. So naturally, that's where he's filming, and no one says a word. And when she kind of whispers to, bring in juror number whatever, how is he supposed to know? He can't know. I mean, there's no reason for him to know. And as soon as he did kill the camera or move it away. But, the funny thing is there were so many people online who immediately screenshot it and somehow catch it, which is, unfortunate, but whatever. It's just not his fault. It's the judge's fault. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Disorder in the court. I mean, come on, you gotta know these things when you're the judge. When you're trying to run a court and hold it down, you got to make sure things are under wraps here. And I understand there was an unforeseen circumstance that took place where they needed to dismiss a juror. But if you're going to walk jurors to sidebar one by one, let's make sure that the camera's down first. Let's do things appropriately here. Do you think there's some suspicion out there that this was done on purpose? What do you think about that?
No chance. I mean, look, they had to bring the one juror out.
I'm doing a show.
the dog's gone. The sidebar. Young Bird now in sidebar.
Right. But Well, all right, we'll carry this. We'll
do
hold
it.
the rope for a few minutes. There
Can you
was
let him up and then put him back down here after?
maybe not. There was nothing sketchy about it. There was no planning on it. The bottom line is, we all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm having.
The
Oh,
sidebar.
you heard?
How was
Did you hear
sidebar?
that? Did you hear my
We
yelling?
heard it
Yeah.
all.
Yes.
I thought I was on mute.
Said you had to put a sidebar.
Someone
I
said
like that.
side bark like a
I'm
dog.
yelling. That's so funny.
That's very clever.
I am yelling at her. Yeah.
So they're down to 3 alternates, which is that's probably fine. I mean, apparently this thing's not going to last for another 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be an issue with that. So that's
I'm laughing now.
Like,
That's
that's
the
one for the
joke.
blooper reels. That's the blooper reel highlight right there.
Yeah.
I am overworked right now.
It's all right.
Got too many dogs. Too many dogs.
It's a stressful case, and we need to have like a comic relief every now and then. So that dog really brightened our days. The whole comment section loved it. So
Did they? I hope so. I hope they
Yeah,
don't think I'm being too mean, yelling. So, one of the things you said earlier was that Karen Reed is strong. I mean, that's something that's come through to me, big time.
Yeah,
just
no,
watching
you
her.
can see it, and and it when you just see how she interacts and talk to her directly, a lot of resolve, and that's not surprising because that's from like top to bottom. Everyone in the family is like that. I mean, they're really, they're going through a stressful time, but they're not freaking out in that kind of despondent, what do we do? They're trying to punch their way out with confidence and resolve, which is that's a good trait for all of them.
incredibly admirable. That's one of the most amazing things about it. That's the kind of stuff that makes me gravitate to people. Is kind of like that's my mentality too. Is when things are down and things are out, you stand tall, you hold yourself to the highest level, and the entire Reed family has done that thoroughly, and it's incredible to watch, and it's exactly how you should be. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing to watch.
I wouldn't even call them down and out. I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying. It's just
Oh, did I use the term? Did I mistakenly use the term down and out?
no, well, it's all right. I mean, I'd say
Okay.
they're facing adversity, but
Yep.
they're confronting it head on with
Yep.
a resolve to win. And they seem very determined from top to bottom amongst the family, and they're certainly having all that support helps dramatically, I would think.
I'll switch that to changing adversity. I didn't realize I used the term down and out. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Thanks, Mark. Okay, there we go.
No, that's
We
why I'm
help each other out here. We
Yeah.
cover
Thank
for
you.
each other.
Thank you.
So
Comment came in, said loved hearing Alan Jackson tell Mr. Bederow he listens to him when he can and truly appreciated his input. Did that happen? I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, we had a nice conversation a couple times, all of them. In a perfect world, colleague to colleague, I would always like that to be a longer conversation, just because we kind of can have a different type of conversation than perhaps other people. But they're all so busy, and that's understandable, and running around doing what they need to do. The other thing, which obviously I think you can see this anyway, they're as dedicated as you could imagine. It's real. They're clearly passionate about what they're doing and all into it. And again, the comparison between the DA side and their side in that regard is, it's night and day. I mean, and you can see it in the courtroom as well, in their inflection changing, monotone in one case anyway. One of the things that struck me too is that the prosecutor is literally monotone he doesn't change his demeanor or tone or emphasize, or it doesn't have to be theatrics, but he never lets the jury or signals the jury know to when something big is coming, or let's have you really pay attention. And, from their perspective, they thought they offered some pretty important evidence yesterday that we can talk about that. I don't think it's nearly as big as they think, but I get it. They think that they have the Google search on their side, and they had a so-called expert say, oh, this is definitely a car accident and it definitely happened this way. Whatever, to them, that's important. But the testimony comes out the same way that the testimony comes out about snow on the apron and Sully's kids. you know what I mean? There's no, and when it comes out at the end of the day, and I know I'm falling asleep, so I know they're falling asleep. It just, there's no oomph. There's no even attempt to say, here it comes. It's kind of sad, actually, just as a litigator. It's kind of sad to see.
I love these comments. The comment just came in from LT33. He says, Mike, fellow BSc guy, Bridgewater State College. Now it's Bridgewater State University. 1992. I wonder if we knew each other. We must have. He says, 30-year LEO, law enforcement officer. We are not all like these corrupt and incompetent cops in this case. Jackson will have a field day with the buffoon Trooper Paul. So
Well,
this is, I love to see law enforcement guys
yeah.
who are seeing the light and telling the truth on this.
So 2 comments to this. I agree. I mean, and that's one of the risks of this case. This case can really damage perception of law enforcement as a whole unfairly, because there appear to be so many incompetent and or corrupt state troopers, a bunch of, just as he said, absolute buffoons or worse in the Canton Police Department. And it can be very easy to just kind of broad stroke and say, you know, all the cops are bad. No one should do that. They are more the exception than the regular. And nobody dislikes incompetent and corrupt cops more than good cops. So, you know, I'm sure there's a million good cops. I've talked to many of them who are just aghast and appalled by this. As far as what's going to happen to the accident reconstruction, you know, in New York, as you know, we have very sharp elbowed courtrooms. It's, you know, kind of a tough place. And there's an expression when somebody gets really hurt on cross-examination, when you walk off and you feel good, maybe it's in poor taste for a case like this, but you'll tell your colleagues, you know, there's blood on the floor. Okay. Like you did some real damage. You're going to need more than a mop on Monday for this guy on cross-examination, because this thing is going to blow up in their face so much. No, first of all, you know that they have, you know, these FBI type experts coming in on the other side, and the best that the DA can do is another state cop, which, you know, and already they're under attack. How stupid. There's got to be somebody better. He's pretty green, you know, he took a few courses, I guess is what he said, you know, sat in the classroom, and he's investigated these you know, accidents. So he's ready to go. He's locked in and ready to go. And his opinion, well, he had 2 opinions yesterday, as you know. The first one about the main car accident, and then the attempt, this kind of really silly attempt to sneak in a rebuttal to the video, which is another conversation. But so he relied, you know, he creates the map or the little image that he's given based on what he's told. So already his premise is faulty. Like, for example, like where John O'Keefe's body is, which is kind of important when you think of what his testimony was. He's just relying upon what he was told days earlier when he did this, or weeks, whatever it was. He doesn't have any real scientific data to put, you know, let me put the glass here, and this is where the car was. And this, he has no real proof other than what he's told. And then when he tells the story of the accident itself, he states it in conclusory terms as it had to be that, as opposed to, well, it was consistent with that, which would be a much more credible way to do it. Because how the hell can he say what happened? But he says, oh no, he was hit on the side. You know, he kind of spun and pirouetted, holding the glass. You know, the cuts on the arm come from the tail. You know, but he's got 5 or 6 of these, right? 5 or 6 slashes. So once again, he's got another doctorate from the state police, by the way. He's, you know, went to the same medical school as Dr. Urey and Dr. Proctor and Dr. Tully is this guy. And of course, everybody knows that the taillight was not shattered in that way. It just wasn't, notwithstanding what they say. It's not what the credible evidence is. But the worst part is, he says when he flips over, you heard for the first time that their theory is that the head gash is from hitting the curb, which, even if you accept that that's possible. Whatever. Again, that's more a medical question than, a state trooper who went to class and says, well, that looks like it could be. But the worst part is the curb is, this doesn't take rocket science now, on the street. He's hit at, they say, 24 miles an hour, sideswiped, which is not even a direct.
Yeah.
If you want to believe that he got launched, you would be launched more if you took a straight hit. So he apparently hits the back of his head on the curb, and then you're supposed to believe somehow bounces 10 to 12 feet away.
Right.
Yeah.
No
Especially
way.
based on how fast she was going. Like this is a good comment right here. John posted, because I haven't looked at the pedestrian, but I'm looking at his statistics, and I bet they are right, because a lot of car accidents too. Like if you're below 35 miles an hour in a car accident, you're mostly fine. 30 miles an hour, no issue. 40, 50, that's where like a lot of deaths happen.
Well,
when,
I think
when it's
so.
excessive speed.
In all fairness to what they're alleging, not that I give it a hell of a lot of credit, I don't, but in all fairness to the speed component, I don't think the speed is necessarily related to the fatality, in the sense they're claiming it's getting hit, spun over, and it's a head smash. Like for example, you see a lot of cases where you have a one-punch assault, it turns into a death because somebody hits, their head on the curb or something. That's not a normal attack level of force that would result in a death. It's that they fell down, and that's kind of what they're saying. But it doesn't fit for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're not going to end up 10 feet or more in the lawn, upside down. That doesn't make sense to me. But the other thing is, they still don't account for the point of impact injuries. And, well, his arm got all messed up by hitting the taillight. That seems dubious. But if his arm hit the taillight alone, you might break his arm, but that's about it. I mean, if somebody, if you see this in baseball, right? You ever seen like a first baseman sticks his arm out?
Yep.
They get their arm destroyed. That happened to who was it? Cliff Floyd. You remember him, Mazza? He was actually in the Red Sox for a little period of time.
Do not know.
I don't.
He was on the Montreal Expos 100 years ago. He stuck his hand out at first base. A guy ran into it at full speed, destroyed his arm. If he got hit by a car only in the arm, he would destroy his arm. But their whole thing is he got sideswiped, which by definition means there's got to be some, if not center mass, there's got to be some trunk or whatever. And they're not saying it's his head. So it doesn't make any sense. If you got hit only in the arm, I still don't understand how the polycarbonate is gonna break. So what he should have said was that some of this might have been consistent with a curb injury. It might have been consistent with whatever, but this guy is locked in 1,000% saying, this is what happened. That's my opinion. And he just happens to work for the state police. He doesn't have the training or experience, really. This was not an accident reconstruction. This was him arriving a couple of days later, relying on a bunch of assumptions from other people. It's not like a car accident where this is terrible, but there's like a body lying in the road, a smashed up car over there, tire tracks over here, and they're on the scene looking at real evidence and calculating what could have happened. He's getting information after the fact and then does these, silly experiments in the Canton police parking lot.
Yeah, ridiculous.
As if, breaking news, her car from 2021 worked. And they tried to have an answer for everything that wasn't good. The airbag detector never went off, even though there was an impact. Well, it doesn't always do that. The infotainment system, whatever, didn't have enough information for this. Oh, well, it doesn't change anything. But again, burden of proof, it was not very impressive. And to the extent that he had any credibility to just kind of give this opinion, which of course the accident reconstruction people the real ones are presumably going to blow him out of the water. Once again, Lally strategy just torpedoed his own witness. And if he's lucky, the judge will do him a favor and preclude this witness from giving this pathetic opinion on the video, which anybody can see if you're willing to be honest to the video, the car rock and the tire move. And when he says, you know, that could not have been caused by this, but I only know that because, you know, there would be some damage. That's not a really good opinion. He never, nor would he, you know, he never lined up the cars. Where would this hit? The bumpers. The bumper looked actually very clean. Was it cleaned off? We don't know. He didn't do anything that would tend to support to have a real opinion on that second accident. He wasn't qualified. And then, of course, you have the fact that none of this should be admissible anyway, because, you know, Lally's playing games, and everybody knows who does this for a living. When you get an expert opinion, that's something that needs to be disclosed for a couple of reasons. Number one, the defense may have to consider whether they need an expert to counter that. It's to prevent trial by ambush. And, you know, ambush, I know, was a controversial word yesterday. It's funny because I was sitting there saying the word I was going to use was sandbag. That's what we call it. And when, you know, he said he was looking for a synonym, I kind of wanted a sandbag, but whatever. The point is, it is ambush. It is sandbag. And, you know, they're preparing for trial. Just because they have a video which shows this doesn't exclude or doesn't forgive the DA from not saying, if we have another, you know, expert opinion, which this is by a non-expert, it's not disclosed, she's going to keep it out. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But you got a preview of how ugly this would be if this comes in. I mean, that was pretty vicious, and it's only going to get 1,000 times worse if she lets it in. So if I were Lally, I would actually show up Monday and say, you know what, forget it. Let's pretend I didn't do that. And let me just argue that it looks like a love tap on the car, and maybe the jury won't think it. But he's going to undermine his main opinion by making a stupid opinion on the small thing. He's going to discredit his larger opinion, which they need on, you know, on the death accident. So they say.
You're on mute, Mike.
I'm shocked that Lally's making the wrong decision again.
Not like Lally at all.
Yeah, Bev wants to see the videos. That's a question.
Well, as you know, when she looked at the video real carefully, apparently not, she was unaware that it even touched the other car. So she'll watch the video. They'll have to do it, you know, give her a copy of the video where their tech expert who's sitting there, you know, blows it up so you can see where it is. She'll conclude that, you know, clearly there's an impact, and she's going to end up precluding this for two key reasons. Number one, it's late, it's untimely. And you saw by the end of the day, Lally just gave up. You know, it should have been, that may have been the smartest thing he said. He may have been trying to actually tell her, forget it. We'll see. But even if it was disclosed properly, this guy doesn't pass the test. He didn't do anything. He's just watching a video and saying, oh, that looks like it wouldn't do it. That's not an accident reconstruction opinion from an expert, which I don't think he is anyway, based on his credentials and conclusory statements that appear to be too speculative. But we'll see what she does. But from a defense perspective, I don't think you can lose either way. You're going to either destroy him, which is going to kill the larger opinion, or you're going to keep it out, and they have no real way to rebut the 5:07 or whatever time that video is, which clearly shows the two cars hit each other.
Lot of questions coming in about the juror who got dismissed. Do you have any insight on that one?
Nope. You know, they do that all on the record up at the bench. I'm not gonna, I mean, I see what this is, and, you know, I saw, you know, it was, I mean, whatever was in the press, I can certainly confirm. I mean, they definitely had the one juror go up a few times. They did have some other jurors come up. I mean, you can speculate what that means. They're asking for, what do they know about something? And ultimately, the decision was made to, you know, get rid of the one juror. But based upon how many times that went up and down, it tells you that
something's going on.
Well, the judge looked like she was trying to avoid it. Let's just leave it at that. But as to the reason why, it would be speculating, and I don't know. I mean, it's not common to lose jurors. It really isn't. It happens. I mean, the trial's 8 weeks long, and people, for any
Have
number of
lives.
reasons, can disappear, whether it relates to they have personal issues, tragedies in the family happen. Sometimes there's conflict, sometimes there's conflict. I mean, the
Medical.
only
I
thing,
gotta think medical issues come up a lot too. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, look, again, I don't want to speculate as to what it was, only as was reported in some, well, by people online and in some of the media. The fact that you saw multiple jurors going up and down and up and down and coming back
seems
suggests
something.
that there was an issue in the jury, which
Now,
is not,
yeah, it wasn't the
that's
same.
less common.
Yeah, the juror that got dismissed wasn't the same one that walked in front of the camera, right? It was a different one. Do you know? Happen to know? Or should we even
The
not talk about that?
I mean, all I said, I won't speculate as to why, because I'm not qualified to know. It was a female juror. I don't
Okay.
know which,
Okay.
but and off she went, and they'll replace, as it is, and they still have other alternates, and that'll be that. And I mean, I think what the judge told the rest of the jurors, as you saw, was there was an issue and she's no longer here, and let's just move on and don't speculate. And the jury nods their head and they say yes. Now, as far as the jury itself, they looked mostly, at least for a while, attentive, but they the DA is not giving them much to work with. I mean, when they did their Google witness yesterday, which is, again, from their side of things, that may be one of the single most important witnesses, because if they do not kill the 227 search, that is the one fact in the case that if is held against them, they lose. Nothing else matters. If the jury thinks it's possible that McCabe was Googling how long, for John O'Keefe basically to die in the cold 3 hours before Karen Reed called her, I don't think any sane person would say they have a shot, obviously. So they have to win that issue conclusively. It can't even be plausible that the call came at 227, or that'll be held against them. And the problem with their expert yesterday is her testimony was so wonky. Now, her conclusion wasn't wonky. I mean, they got out ultimately what they needed, which was, in my opinion, that search happened at 6:03. But the problem is the support for that is gobbledygook. I mean, it means nothing to laypersons, what she was talking about. I mean, she's talking dense computer nerd language. Maybe one or two of them understood, probably none of them. I sure as hell couldn't follow it, and whatever. And the problem they're going to have, in the best case scenario for them, the defense expert will come up and do the exact same thing. That's the best case for the DA. He comes up and gives a gobbledygook, wonky answer and explains why it's the exact opposite. And now you're the jury and you say, well, what am I supposed to do here? How do we know? But they know that there were all these other deleted calls, that they were the Alberts and Higgins and McCabe, they're all butt dialing. It's right around the same time. That's bad for the DA. That's making it plausible. So that's going to be real troubling for them. So, to me yesterday, a lot of the people who want to believe, oh my God, she's guilty and this case is going down the drain for the defense, they get all excited every time the defense chooses either not to cross-examine or just kind of not go deep, if you will. And it totally made perfect sense why the cross-examination was very brief. And I thought they did the right thing, which is, why are you going to talk gobbledygook with her, even if you're able to just have her talk gobbledygook over you and say, my conclusion is the same.
Exactly.
Okay, you have Green coming in later and is going to tell you what you want. And my suspicion is, because these are really good, experienced lawyers who also connect with the jury, like, they don't lose focus on the only one that matters here is what the jury understands. So they know what they're doing. They're going to do whatever they can to have their experts speak English so that the jury can actually remember the explanation that he gives. And if they say, yeah, that makes sense, they're going to skew that way on that issue. And I think they have a way to do this because if you recall, part of their argument is, first of all, he used, I think, more advanced software that she was not aware of. You already know that the sample they gave her, it's a little sketchy, right? Here comes Tully, who sends her a cold email. That's how you're hiring an expert when you work for the Massachusetts State Police. You're just randomly,
Cold calling
on the contact us email of some firm and wherever. And what do? They send her the 603 search, basically, and nothing else. So, what Yannetti was trying to get out was you didn't know that there was this other stuff and it might have affected you. And she said, of course, before it was sustained, but the jury heard it. So she's on a very limited sample, right? She doesn't know what else is going on. But the other thing is, if you go back and look at one of the things the defense has been saying, and this, I think, even though it's kind of technical, can really be put in English. And if you hear what I'm about to say versus the gobbledygook you heard yesterday, Apple has this time counter that Jackson lectured about months ago, where by every event on the phone is linked in time to a running counter from back from 2001. I mean, it may be like some Y2K thing. I don't know, but everything ticks and every event is linked to a timestamp in seconds from 2001. And this event from the Google search has a number that's like 665,000 or million or something. And my understanding is the way Apple works, if you break that number down, compute it, maybe they'll bring a calculator with them for this, by the way, because I know we don't want them to use Jackson's cell phone because, it may poison, as somebody joked, poison him or something. I mean, my advice would be bring a calculator. But anyway, my understanding is if you link it up, it comes out to January 29th, 2022 at 2:27 a.m. And if that's what Green says, that's English. That's not all these files and this and that. And if you close this and close, that's good common sense English. And I would also suspect if every event has its own time, so would the later searches, and they'd be different, and it would be a greater number because it came after. And if that's the case, see you later.
Game over. And that's definitely reasonable, though.
Now,
We'll talk.
Also, on this point, and this is another one of these incredible Olivia things that she just does. As she pointed out, and I didn't even know this because I couldn't see it yesterday on the board, and it might have been one of the moments, in all candor, where I was debating taking a nap. But my understanding is that the Google search at issue here, she had the same number, the expert, but she didn't have a sample to compare it against. So there's no way for her to know that unique Apple number that calculates the time in seconds since 2001 relates to any particular event on the phone, or artifact, as they call it. So there's nothing for her to compare it to, or why would she? But the number of the search that she had as the Apple counter number, whatever it's called, I don't know, I'm not a tech guy, is the number that Green has in his report, I believe. So they agree that the Apple number is the same. And this may be as simple as just connecting that. And then the last question is this, and I'm sure the defense in their summation, when they talk about Tully telling her what to do, limited information, is why wouldn't they have her give an opinion about all the other stuff? The Albert calls, the Higgins deletions, the other McCabe deletions, right? Why wouldn't you do that? They don't. I mean, they didn't want her because those are probably very accurate. So it sounds good for them right now. And I know people run around and they think it's great. And I guess, again, with a scale of relativity, it's good for the DA because it's something. I mean, look at this case. It's something, but I would expect it's going to crash and burn when this issue is raised. And it completely explains to me, and I agree with what they did 100%, why you would not go after their expert, because you're not going to win that battle. And you've got your expert. Let her. It's not the expert's fault. She's credible. She's kind of eclectic in many ways, and interesting manner in testifying with such eagerness to answer questions and comment on how brilliant Lally's questions were. But all that stuff aside, she's not lying, right? She's not dishonest. She just may not have had all of the information in front of her. And they'll argue it's not her fault. It's Tully's fault, which by extension is the prosecution's fault. They tried to schnooker you is basically the argument, I think.
Following up on that, what's your prediction on how Lally will handle Green? Like, is he going to do the same thing? Probably not, because he's a fool, right? Like, what do you think what do you think his goal in that will be, and what he'll actually do?
I don't know. I mean, look, we've never seen him cross-examine. And I mean, look, cross-examination, it's not a skill, it's an art form, really. I think skill is part of it, but it's really, if it's done effectively and properly, and again, with helping the jury out, it's kind of an art form. And, you've seen some masters at work in that regard with various witnesses and whatnot. The concern I would have, if you're on the DA side or the DA's office, whatever, is with Lally, even if he has the wherewithal, which, he may, I mean, he's not strategy wise, he's off. I mean, he's not unintelligent per se. I just think he doesn't have a strategic litigator's brain, if you will, but I don't think he's dumb. Okay. But how is he going to get the jury to focus and just not tune them out, especially if Green puts it in English and just uses this ticker, if you will, and presumably he'll say, well, this is the software I used, and I'm aware of the report that what was her name, Hyde, used, and it's either out of date or it didn't work or it didn't pick up this. I don't know what you do at that point. It's not good. Oh, you're silent again, Mike.
Keep doing that. Sorry. Keep doing that because of the dogs tonight.
It's all right. We like dogs. One of mine is, she's right under
he's
me.
yapping.
Yeah. So I don't know what he's going to do. And, cross-examination, and prosecutors don't cross nearly as much as defense attorneys. They're just, by definition, they don't do it because a lot of times there aren't defense witnesses. It's not so common to have a case like this where the defense has, just an incredible case that they're presumably going to put on, whether it includes experts, cops, whoever. So I don't know that there's a great solution here. And then what he's going to be left with in summation is trying to argue why, why Green is wrong and his expert is right. And if it comes down to the science in his mind, how confident do you feel in the DA convincing the jury that we're right 100% if you're getting lectured on the wonky science by Lally in summation? That is a recipe for disaster. It is a recipe for a nap. And it's a recipe for saying, where is the
sleeping again? I'll be sleeping.
Where is the closest ice pick so you can just stab yourself in the neck to
just take a nap. If you're at home, I mean, it's different in court, but if you're at home, just take a nap like I did. It felt really good.
But what is a jury going to do? I mean, can you imagine getting lectured on that issue in a summation when the defense, with somebody very articulate and who's connecting with the jury, says it's really simple, boom, boom, boom. And he relates it to the timeline of all the other searches and things. He relates it to all the other deletions. And it kind of becomes a common sense point. And then, the bottom line is this: Lally has to convince the jury beyond a doubt that I'm right and there was no 227 search. And he may feel like he has it now. And some of the simpletons who run around saying, oh my God, that's it, that this fact is proven. I don't want to get all cheesy and like quote the defense opening, but when they, wait for us and all of that, that's what they're
We're
talking
waiting.
about.
Yeah, we're all waiting.
That's what they're saying. Don't rush to conclusions. The same way everyone's running around today, if you're inclined to think that she's guilty because this so-called accident reconstruction expert said what happened. If that is such a simpleton analysis, this guy is not a good expert. And you have to ask yourself, why do they have a state trooper who's really not qualified? And they have people hired by the FBI who are going to get in the real detail about what probably happened. And by their own argument, they're going to need you to believe that he cracked his head on a sidewalk and then bounced. Because the other thing is this: if he cracked his head on the curb, that's a real serious. I mean, we've all seen the head injury. That's not like sliding across. That is a smash.
Yeah, that seems done.
Then,
you're done. Maybe one more little pop. Yeah, like exactly.
20 miles an hour. That requires a smash and bounce.
Exactly.
And that's just, I don't think you need a medical degree to say that's not likely.
Yeah, we've seen those kind of falls on. If you watch videos too, you see exactly what you're talking about. It's so true.
And of course, he's talking about multiple injuries from multiple taillight fragments. And that's well and good that their expert thinks that. But any sane person is going to trust the Dighton police officer over Michael Proctor and his boss, Yuri. Okay.
Exactly. And where's and the blood? No blood on the taillight. So if you get those injuries from the taillight, where's the blood on it?
That goes back to the DNA analysis. Yeah. I mean, the fact that there is O'Keefe's DNA it's kind of like a nothing burger. I mean, it's not, I guarantee you, as we talked about the other day, if you went to my wife's car and you took a sample on the taillight, I would not be stunned at all if my DNA was on it. I'm sure there's a time that in the last month, whatever, that I touched it without even knowing it or caring. So, the more interesting thing is what we talked about the other night, which is how do you explain the blood on the jeans from 3 people? So
that's it. That's the shocker that everyone should be talking about. Joke came in saying, Mike, was that you in the red Solo Cup walking a customer's dog? No, I don't get dressed up to walk dogs in costumes. Not a good idea.
There was a lot of people dressed up yesterday. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of a circus out there, but I got to tell you, these people are so dedicated. It's really impressive how dedicated they are. And I'm told it's every day, like every day.
Yeah, every day they're there. They do the cookout. It's amazing. And a lot of people too have used up all their vacation time and their sick days from work. It's just they've skipped their regular life. It's so true. Like even us, look at us. We may not be down at court every day, but we're doing shows like every night. Yeah. So it's definitely even affected us. There was another comment about white noise. They were asking if you think there was any white noise going on when Bev does the sidebars. Is there a husher? Did you notice anything like that? Does the courtroom have a white noise husher for sidebars? It doesn't seem like they'd be set up for that, but I'm wondering.
I don't think so, although I never thought about it. But it's interesting because they must be at least up there heard, maybe not as far as the jury, and you certainly couldn't hear them from our area, but everyone's favorite person, Madam Court Reporter, is whispering into her thing when they're on the record, and she's not really moving, and they're all the way over there. So unless there's some doohickey mic that only pumps into where she is, she clearly can hear them from where she is. But
there's some kind of ventilation system or air system that's coming right behind us from where we were sitting, and it kind of
Right.
it makes that kind of noise. So that's probably what makes it tough to hear, from that section. Probably for the press box as well. I know Jess Machado complains a lot of times that's tough to hear. She couldn't even hear one of the last people on the stand on Thursday, for example. But I don't see any formal hushers for white noise or anything like that. But like Mark said, it's very difficult to hear anybody.
Well, but even worse than that, and this is what's crazy. That thing you see, the screen on TV where the exhibits go up on,
Mhm.
and they zoom in, and that's great. At home, you can see it. You can't read from where the audience is
Screen.
sitting, and I think we're actually closer than the jurors.
Hmm.
So if there are
Yeah.
words on the screen, I'm
That's right.
telling you
Can't
right
see it.
now, they can't read it.
That's
And
right.
the people on the O'Keefe side of the room, there's only one screen. Most courtrooms would have multiple screens.
Multiple.
That's
Yeah.
right.
They can't see. So if they want to see, they have to like literally in front of
Yeah.
the jury lean out and over, and then it's like right over their head, and they still can't see it. It's the
What do you think? It's
courtroom
like a 60. What do you think? It's like a 60-inch monitor or something like that,
It's not-
tops. I
I
mean,
don't know why it's not an 85 to 90 inch. It ought
Yeah.
to be. It's not that big a screen.
Yeah.
Or just have multiple, like you said. Like
Yeah.
have one a little
It-
closer.
I mean, the courtroom itself is a complete joke for what
Closet,
this
yeah.
is. It's embarrassing. It really is.
That's a fact. Yeah, it's poorly designed. I mean, like I said, it's like the design of the room is a square at an angle with a standard square top to bottom. Just like it's
And
like two different squares, one that's going one way, one that's going the other way, and the room design goes against the actual wall design. It's just it's tough to even describe, but it's totally weird. And for one thing, I'll just say this and I'll say it again. For a murder trial, the O'Keefe's are far, the one side, both sides of these, parties here are way too close for
2 feet
something like
away.
this. Yeah,
Well,
it's crazy.
they've moved Karen's seat. She's now farther away from them.
Mm.
So I think most of the time, she had been kind of all the way
Yeah,
or
it was
second seat
David.
from that.
Yeah, David's
They
kind of
kinda-
blocking now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Did
And
he stare you down at all by any chance? Did he give you a stare down at all, Mark, in court like he
No.
did to me on Thursday? Okay.
no, I mean, they look over, and for reasons I don't want to get into right now, I assure you they knew exactly who I and Melanie Little were for sure, but I don't want to have that conversation here. But in terms of, no, I mean, he was just there doing whatever. I mean, I don't think he was like anyone different there yesterday, as far as I could tell. John O'Keefe's mother was not there yesterday for whatever reason. I mean, again, I don't know what that means, but I didn't sense any undue tension or anything other than the fact that everyone's on top of each other. It really is just a terrible setup.
Yeah.
Did you
Have you ever
feel?
seen?
Oh,
let's
there's
get
a
to
comment
Mark.
here that said you were a little overwhelmed when you're outside. People were cheering for you, and you look like holy shit. Like, did you feel like that when you were showing up
Not,
there?
I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word. Stunned. The just overall interest in all of this is, yeah. I mean, so maybe a little uncomfortable. Only now, first of all, as you know, lawyers are egomaniacs, so don't misread what I'm telling you. I mean, any lawyer who tells you, they don't like this is completely full of shit. That's just, if you do this for a living, you're wired differently, okay?
Right, right.
But a little embarrassed, I think, only because you're not part of this. Like, I mean, there's something going on and real serious business going on, and you just don't want to like literally become part of that. But people follow this and everything. And so, no, I mean, it's at the same token, it is nice and flattering, and it makes you feel good that people are interested in what you have to say and all of that. But overwhelmed, no. A little embarrassed and uncomfortable just because you're trying to just kind of blend in. A little bit of that, I think.
A little bit humbled by the fanfare,
A little
maybe.
bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, but I mean, that doesn't mean you don't like it. Don't kid yourself.
Exactly.
I fanboyed when I saw you live on Tommy's stream. Now everyone wants to see my face. I don't want to plug my Twitter on your show, but there's pictures of me with Karen and
What do you
few
mean
other
you're not
people.
going to plug? It's at
Oh,
Mazda Media.
Yeah,
I
I'll
love
plug
that
Media
picture.
next. Yeah, it's awesome.
You look like your Secret Service, but like you're just
I know.
missing
He
the earpiece.
seriously does,
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
he? He's
Yeah.
tall.
Security.
He's like, yeah. You
Yeah.
look like a
Security.
giant Mazda. You live
Oh,
up
it's
to
crazy,
exactly
yeah.
how you described yourself to me.
Oh yeah, yep.
Like he's a
That's
big
for sure.
boy. He
Oh yeah,
definitely can play basketball.
yep. That's for sure. I was
No, but
playing.
but honestly, these people that are out there, it's remarkable. I mean, I can't tell you how. I mean, it's just something you're not used to seeing. I mean, look, we're in New York, Manhattan. That is the poster child for high profile trials. It always has been. It always will be. But we don't see that. What we see, like for example, is with the Trump circus that we had in town for 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it was. And you'd see people out there, but most of them are, as you could imagine, either anti-Trump or screaming and yelling. They're not happy. Whoever they're yelling at, whichever side, nobody's happy. Nobody's there to like support the defendant. I mean, they're handing us donuts there, this thing, Donut King, which you must be familiar with. I had already eaten breakfast and they're making me eat a donut, and it's not like a Dunkin' donut. Okay. It's about 3 times the size. It's probably 1,000 calories with no healthy
I'm already
component.
eating all that.
And I'm
Oh,
going
yeah.
in, and that's probably why
I
I
gotta
fell
find that guy
asleep.
when I show
It's
up.
probably
Yeah.
why I fell asleep. They just like sugared me to death.
Too much carbs.
Yeah. So
I'm down.
no, but all kidding aside, like what's going on outside the courthouse, it's unbelievable. The flags, honking horns, and that's just got to be such a boost to the defense emotionally, and just such. You can try to tune it out all you want, but when you're the DA and you kind of skulk in the courtroom with like, holding like a stack of like 80 papers under your arm, and you're overworked and tired and no one's helping you, and you see, she comes in with this, army of just surgically skilled lawyers, all these supporters, incredible family support, and the family are treated like royalty too, just so you know. And that's just got to be so demoralizing for the prosecution.
I got a question for you. I don't know if this is something you're allowed to elaborate on, but when the stream was live on Tommy CPU's channel, Alan Jackson had approached you when you guys were outside of the vehicle when he had arrived, and he said something to you, and then you made something. I don't know if it's something you want to converse on or not. You can just pass if you don't want to answer. But he said something along the lines of a question, and you said, "I'm not looking to move on from what I do right now." Are you allowed to elaborate? Can you elaborate on what the question was asked, or is that something?
I'd rather not actually.
Okay, that's fine.
I think, they're the lawyers on trial. We had a very nice conversation then, and some more, during the day, during a break. But I'd rather not. Those are just kind of, I don't want to, lawyers, they're on trial, but I very impressed with both of them completely. I'm glad I met them. Lawyers don't fanboy as much, just as you could. I mean, it's just kind of what we do, but it is always nice to meet, top people. And, one of the advantages I had growing up as a lawyer, when you practice in Manhattan and you're at that DA's office, and then you stay in Manhattan, over the course of your doing this, you're going to run into the best. I mean, it's just going to happen. And it's always good to, meet new people who are just on that top level from other cities, and just kind of, share thoughts and whatnot. So but beyond that, I wouldn't want to discuss it, if that's
that's okay. I got another question for you. So as I'm an ex-athlete. It's tough for me sometimes to watch sports in person because I'm just so used to being an athlete. You're an active defense attorney. You're sitting in a courtroom where you're not actively playing that role.
Hard.
Is it tough for you? Yeah.
Yes, because a perfect example is, so at the end of the day, when, they were kind of throwing down over, Lally not giving notice of the so-called expert's second opinion about the video. And they went up there, and I was sitting next to Mr. Reed, and I said, he's going to be upset because they're sandbagging him. This is, just, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to disclose it in advance. You're supposed to just, play fair. Okay. You can't do this. And so, the word he used again was ambush, which is same thing. And when he said, I'm trying to think of a synonym because she got, pissy about the word ambush. As I said, I want to say what you're looking for is sandbag. You're getting sandbag. No, and when you see the real cross-examination happen, you kind of want to say, tag me in, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it is hard to watch, but it's even harder to watch somebody who's not effective, because when somebody is effective, you also like to enjoy it. Not so much critique it, but just, I mean, the other thing lawyers do, good lawyers steal from other good lawyers.
Exactly.
You can always get better and learn and see how different styles work and how does that fit with you. So, I really love watching him do it because it puts ideas in my own mind about different ways of doing things. So you're not critiquing at that. You're just trying to sponge really and appreciating. But when you see somebody who's not so effective, it's hard
Lunchbox.
not to
Right.
critique. And that's, probably one of the reasons why I've been so mean, I guess, in discussing what Lally does, because I can't help it. I think he's terrible at it. I'm just being honest.
Is he one of the worst prosecutors, if not the worst you've ever seen? Or have you seen worse than that in New York or any other courtroom?
Again, it's all relative.
Mhm.
On anyone who has any experience and on a serious case, unquestionably the worst.
Yeah.
And I knew that after the opening. I mean, that shocked the hell out of me. How bad his opening was in a case like this was jaw-droppingly bad. I mean, it was that stunning, and it's just continued since then.
A couple super chats came in on DNA. One was, can FBI test unknown DNA profile against McAlbert's? We kind of talked about that the other night, but we could touch on that again.
Do they have samples? And even then, it gets complicated because before they would do anything, they would have to at some point get a real sample, like a buccal swab, where you take it and rub it on your gums and cheek and all of that. I mean, look, they're not going to go pick up a pizza box from the Albert's apartment and whatnot. Could the FBI do it at some point? Maybe. I mean, they can do whatever they want as long as they follow the law. I mean, if the FBI wanted, they could ask the homeowner if we could drill the floor.
Yeah, There's another question that came in about that, because they said, and I don't know about this. I've been hearing about this. I have no idea. I'm wondering if either one of you do. Any ideas about the defense showed video going through the Albert basement post-sale with an emphasis made on the door? A lot of people are talking about this bulkhead door too. Have you heard anything about this or know anything about it?
No, other than there was odd cross-examination about the bulkhead door. I mean, in other words, it just kind of came out of nowhere. And if you know anything about these guys and other real lawyers who do it the same way, there's a purpose for what you do. They're not just lobbing questions because I care about the door, curious what they're going to say. So if they asked a series of very specific questions and kind of probed on that, that's one of those things I would flag for later. I would expect something. I don't know what. The same way when with Higgins, they had asked him, about being in the Sally Port at a certain time on a certain day with Berkowitz. Look, they know something. I don't know what it is, but it ain't good for Higgins and Berkowitz, especially since Berkowitz is apparently the guy who apparated out of nowhere on the Fugazi video. So something's coming.
And you know what's good too is you brought up this and maybe the last couple shows that they've held things like this for the right person at the right time. They're strategic on the cards they have.
Totally strategic, and it's really advanced in the way that they have incredible discipline to hold their fire until the exact moment. I mean, there's a lot of like when you have all those text messages, a lot of lawyers would immediately, it's just too irresistible. Brian Albert, like, let's go. And, would it be effective? Probably. but would it be a little bit of a dud? Maybe, because he's just not, going to say anything, as opposed, I believe they made an assessment that Matthew McCabe is kind of the dope of the operation. Even though he's an IT guy, that he would be the one who they could pin down, catch off guard, and just have him give it up. And he did. And it worked out perfectly. So, nothing would shock me that they're just waiting and waiting. And that's also why I think yesterday with Hyde, they didn't go after her. There was no reason to. Let her say what she's going to say. No one understands it except her conclusion, which, everyone understands. And then they'll do it in English, presumably through their expert. And then they win that point. And if they win that point, I know this is like the fifth time we've said this about the fifth issue, but I really mean it on this issue. The case is over. If they think that it's possible, there was a Google search by McCabe at 227. That is per se reasonable doubt, because why would she ever do that?
Comment came in about Trooper Paul's comment about checks and balances, that meeting they had.
He said so many awful things during his voir dire about checks and balances, undisclosed notes, okay? Watching the video and seeing it on court TV.
Yeah.
Now, what the hell does that mean? If, by the way,
watching Julie Grant.
I think he said Tully was at the meeting, and when did this happen? And was this during the trial? He said so many things. Checks and balances was a disaster. What is that supposed to mean? He claimed he didn't see the tire move, although I think he'll walk that back. I mean, look, if you watch the video, he gave him a chance and he still said, I don't know.
Zoomed right in on it, right on the tire.
But the key is, and this is why, another reason why, if I'm Lally, I just get up before the judge issues a ruling and says, forget it, I'm done, pull it back. This came up recently during the trial, and that will come out on cross. There's no, this big opinion. When did you render this opinion? Because Lally said, I need an opinion like a couple of weeks ago. It's not an ouch objection, but it's an ouch opinion. It's the same concept. The jury's going to think this guy's really sensitive because, oh my God, they have a video which clearly shows Karen Reed bang into John O'Keefe's car. And although the DA wants to say that it's, such a low speed impact, which it is, but you see the car rock back and forth. There's an impact. And if the impact is on the taillight, and if it hit that thing sticking out near the windshield wiper, as they said effectively yesterday, which substance is going to give? And I think anyone who understands polycarbonate tells you this. It pushes in. It doesn't shatter.
Safety plastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, to be honest with you, I don't know why everybody's calling it plastic. I'd be calling it polycarbonate. I would emphasize that.
Or safety, because I used to do a little part-time security. They give you the safety glasses. Same thing when we were in the beer company in the factory, in the warehouse.
Yeah.
They give you those safety plastic glasses because they don't shatter.
Nobody, unless I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I just don't remember. I don't think anybody has yet used the word or tried to examine on the fact that even though we're calling it plastic, it's not classic plastic. It is a special substance that is designed to be shatterproof. That's kind of the whole point, because these guys are saying it shattered everywhere from an impact that hit his arm. That's what he said, right? It hit his arm. Or what, the glass? Is that what that wouldn't have shattered it?
Makes no sense.
No sense. None. They don't have a real expert. That's the bottom line. And in summation, they're going to just clobber them with this. Their expert is another, bald-headed state police. So they're going to leave that part out, obviously. But, you wonder if the jury's even like, what is it with these guys?
They all look like the same.
They look like
robots.
They look like, guy A, guy B, guy C, guy D. Like they're like a clone army. It's
It's incredible.
It looks paramilitary, doesn't it?
Well,
Like
which is what
someone
they
else
said.
mentioned, you know how we talked about paramilitary the other night, and we dropped up, state troopers. We talked about some other
Yeah.
language they use. Someone also brought up that, most
Colonels,
places
they
are
have
called
colonels.
police stations. They're barracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, look,
it's
they are paramilitary, and I don't think he necessarily meant it in a nefarious way. But the bottom line is, none of these guys from the state police are coming off good. None of them, as far as I can recall. The only police officer who's come off 100% disinterested and not cheesy is the guy from Dighton. And of course, he just happens to be the guy who entirely kneecaps their whole argument on what happened here. I mean, destroys it in 5 minutes of testimony, by the way, which was elicited by Lally.
and Turtle Boy reported that officer had gotten hit by a drunk driver.
Yeah, no,
So I think he takes this stuff I'm sure the officer takes this
he
very
was
seriously. Tell the
out of
truth.
duty, even I think at the time he testified, for a long time. He's been out for a long time, but I mean, when you figure out a reason why the DA felt it was in their interest to call him. Now, look, I think they would have been obligated if they didn't to notify the defense. That's
That he
classic
existed.
Brady. Yeah, it's Brady evidence. It's exculpatory, but it's really not in Lally's nature to pop the balloon with something like that. And by the way, if you were going to do that, you don't do it right before you call Proctor. I mean, that couldn't have been worse timing when you're going to call the guy who says, me and Yuri found 45 pieces that revealed itself, when this guy's saying there's just a crack. Just not good.
Not good timing.
No.
Not good setup. Someone said, what kind of charges would Jen McCabe face if evidence of perjury is introduced?
Perjury. I mean, who knows? If there's, don't think just because you think you can prove somebody lying that they necessarily get charged with perjury. It's hard. Nobody gets charged with perjury unless the prosecutor can nail it down. And the easiest way they do it is, what you would call perjury by inconsistent statement. So they testify under oath A, and then they testify under oath the exact opposite B. And you just basically say, which is it? It can't be both. It's much, much harder to prosecute for perjury under a theory. We're convinced that she lied, but you don't have literal proof unless, somebody says, she says, I denied making the Google search at 227. And there was a video of her making the Google search at 227. You wouldn't need an inconsistent statement there. You'd say it's clear, but don't assume they get indicted for the phone calls and stuff, unless there is absolute conclusive proof.
Excellent. And there was some jury instructions that the prosecution has put out. Do you want to talk about that? Because it seems pretty crazy.
So this happens in every trial. You do it's called a request to charge. And so in every case, there are generally what you would call standard jury instructions, which, for example, the burden of proof, usually there's just standard charge. Nobody's gonna, fight over that charge. The statutes of the crimes. Okay. No one's going to fight over. I mean, that's just defined in the penal law, or whatever they call it in Massachusetts. In New York, they call it the penal law. I don't know what they call it in Massachusetts, but but usually what you do is you then have, if there are any special requests to charge, you have to have it requested. So, for example, the real controversial one is consciousness of guilt. Okay. It's a charge that would not be given unless one side can argue that there is a reasonable view of the evidence, and that the jury should be told that they could consider that evidence as indicative of the defendant's consciousness of guilt, which the defense, of course, would never want. Okay, so then what's the evidence? Now, if you wanted to say the evidence is, there's evidence that she hit him, got out of the car and looked, this is not really this real case, it's just an example, looked at him, got in her car and ran away. I think we would all agree that that would be consciousness of guilt. That's you don't do that unless you're oh shit. Could they even argue that running around saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Did I hit him? Like, arguably is consciousness of guilt. It's pretty weak because the statement is not clear. But I assure you, what is not evidence in this case as consciousness of guilt is Lally. And this is just disgraceful, by the way. This is more unethical. And to not think that the defense is going to just go ape shit on this is crazy. So this is another leading with your chin moment. They want the jury to be told to consider that Karen Reed had consciousness of guilt because there's evidence that she harassed witnesses. So you got to back, like, this is like, whoa, back way up. So there was evidence of harassment of witnesses that came in. We'll get to that in a minute. But that evidence was that, unnamed bloggers allegedly did that. I'm not opining on the truthfulness of that, but, Allie McCabe and Jen McCabe were ranting and raving. You know what they're ranting and raving about. They're blaming him, whatever. There was no evidence that Karen Reed had anything to do with that. She's never been charged with it. The DA thinks it, but, they think a lot of things. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I mean, they think she's guilty of murder. That doesn't mean that conviction is going to happen. It's not. But so they want the jury to be told that they can use that evidence of Jennifer McCabe and her daughter, or whoever else even said it, as basically, arguing this shows that she's guilty. This is so outrageous for so many different reasons. First, there's just no evidence of it. But number two, even if you believe that evidence should have come in, and it should not have, it was admitted for a limited purpose. And in fact, Mr. Lally, the judge charged the jury specifically, you cannot consider this against Karen Reed. And that's another remember, we talked about this.
Yeah.
It's prejudicial. This is not right.
This is why she should have never let it in, right?
Potential mistrial stuff. Well, Lally's blown past that and said, no, let's tell her. But that evidence came in because, according to the judge, and she was wrong, they were cross-examining her daughter about why you didn't mention Colin Albert in your first statement being in the house 9 months earlier. Okay. And she basically said, well, it wasn't an issue then. He had nothing to do with anything at the time. No one ever suggested. And then, there was this court appearance and argument and suggestion that Colin was a suspect. And that was, by the way, that was a good answer she gave. I mean, you may not believe it, but that's a fair, logical response to that. And the judge somehow said, well, that's it. Now she's allowed to talk about all this harassment. So it never should have come in, but it didn't come in as evidence that Karen Reed was harassing anything. It came in for the limited purpose of showing why Allie McCabe did not tell the police about Colin Albert. That's the jury instruction that they should be getting about this evidence, that it goes to her credibility, McCabe, the young one, Allie, that they attacked her credibility for not reporting to the police right away. And the jury can consider on her credibility of whether she did or didn't, because she didn't believe that he was an issue until whatever. And the jury can accept it or reject it. But how the hell that turns into the jury being instructed on Karen Reed's consciousness of guilt because they're claiming someone else was harassing them is,
Yeah.
This may be actually, bar none, the sleaziest thing he's done in the whole trial.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other person hasn't been convicted. The whole prosecution of Aiden is very controversial. Like a lot of us
It is,
do
but
not think
extremely.
he should have ever been charged for
but
that
even
stuff.
worse than that, Karen's never been charged.
Exactly.
Now they can scream and yell internally.
Yeah.
We think she did it, but that doesn't mean you're going to tell the jury that.
Exactly.
That is, so his request to charge is, I mean, just, it's unprofessional. And what does he think the defense response is going to be? It's going to be blistering.
I guess it's breaking news too that Turtle Boy just released that grand jury declined to bring charges against Karen Reed for witness intimidation in March. That may
Perfect.
come out, right?
Well, this is even more disgraceful then. I mean, they tried
Is
to,
that,
I mean,
is
if this
that
is
good news or
true,
the bad news, Mark? Okay. Okay.
no, what I'm saying is if Lally knows that he tried and failed forget Turtle Boy for a minute. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he matters, but not in a legal sense of what they're doing at her trial. If they tried to indict her for this and the grand jury declined, and you remember this, a grand jury will generally indict a ham sandwich if you asked it to, is the famous quote. And they declined to indict her without her even being aware of the grand jury proceeding, which means the defense had no opportunity to have her testify or demand to offer evidence, which they in certain situations might have a right to do. Then that tells you that this is weak, right? They wouldn't even
Yeah.
indict her. And the worst part is if that happened in March and you're in June, well, it was probably well, maybe, yeah, it probably was Lally in the grand jury. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But he knows the result. And now he wants to use that unindicted conduct in this case.
No way. It's unbelievable.
Shame
It-
on you,
like you
sir. As
said,
someone else said.
sleazy. It is sleazy. I like that word,
Sleazy.
sleazy. It really is.
Sleazy. It is. And I don't know what they're doing, or they're making him do it or not, but nothing fits here because it's so transparently obvious that you're not going to get that charge. You're going to get the defense with a ground ball to scream and yell and say how disgraceful this is. You may be opening the door now to the defense saying in court, and they know that they tried to indict her and didn't, they can just pile on with that and say, and now he has the temerity to come in and say that the jury should be told that they can find that Karen Reed might have been involved in that as consciousness of her guilt for committing a murder.
Unbelievable.
It's
unreal.
This is like you're having three conversations that don't even line up. I don't know what he's possibly talking about here.
Kangaroo court. Now I understand what a kangaroo court is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
This
all
may
it's
be
been
what
is they've tried to stack the deck against her in any way, shape, or form they possibly can because they know it's a cover up and they got to keep stacking the deck because they're never satisfied because they're so worried that she's going to emerge victorious, which she's going to do.
Yeah.
And they just got to keep stacking it on and doing everything known to man. And people keep on the other side keep saying, "Oh, we have a conspiracy theories." We don't have any conspiracy theories when there's a clear cover up. It's clear as day. How many people watch this show, support Karen Reed, or out there holding signs, or out there supporting every part of Karen Reed and her fight against the Commonwealth here because everybody sees the obvious.
Exactly.
It's absolutely blatant. You got people in court day in and day out going on that stand, which is what Attorney Alan Jackson exactly complained about to Judge Canoni in court Friday afternoon. You got witness after witness after witness that's getting prepped by the prosecution, going out there and just skewing their stories. You got Joe Paul, who goes up there, so-called expert. He's not an expert in anything. He's not an expert in getting dressed or walking in the door, for goodness sakes. He can't even do the basics of life. And this guy is up there trying to tell us that he doesn't see a tire move when it blatantly moves.
Yeah,
They
that was
zoomed
ridiculous.
in on court on that tire and it moves. And Microdots released pictures of screenshots of that parking lot showing the color breakdown, the color scheme as darker in the Commonwealth version than the other version that was in there. And it's on and on and on. I should get started, Jane. Thank you so much, Jane. I love Jane. Jane's awesome. But this is the issue here. There's so much deception, and you have people that are skewing their stories. Who knows what they're talking about? Who knows how Lally's working with these witnesses that he brings on as they come on as this case develops. And it's just ridiculous. You got Jessica Hyde on the stand yesterday, and she's saying, "Oh, the 227 search didn't have." Well, there's Cellbrite data that shows that Cellbrite can't put in data unless it was imported there by someone that actually searched Hoslong the Die Cold at 2:27 in the morning.
I heard something yesterday during
Right.
the arguments that, when Jackson was all fired up about they keep doing this, that again, it was another jaw dropping thing. And for him, it was just a throwaway point to say these people are just dirtbags. What I heard yesterday, and if this happened in New York, there would have been a crisis. And the fact that there wasn't a crisis in this case, again, makes me roll my eyes and say, I don't know what's going on with the judge, or why there's just not more sanction and punishment. But what he said was that the DA turned over a statement of Jennifer McCabe, who is, unquestionably one of the three most important people in the case, after she finished her cross-examination, which is a hideous discovery violation. Probably would have given them at a minimum the right to call her back and reopen it if they chose, and maybe they did and didn't. But how in the hell the DA doesn't disclose a statement of a witness of that import until she's gone from the stand, and then they just shrug their shoulders and say, whatever? That would have been, again, in New York, people like me would be screaming and yelling for sanctions, possible mistrial, depending on what it is, and the jury and this and that. And apparently in this case, it's just the way it is. Okay.
Right.
In this case, you can have an expert give an opinion, and then 2 weeks before say, I need another one, and just not tell anyone. And even Lally, when confronted on that yesterday, said, I should have done that.
That was such
Right.
negligence, wasn't it? Oh, I should have done that. Yeah, you should have done that. And you didn't
You
do it
should've.
because you're a horrible prosecutor, Adam Lally.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that's just not how you should be practicing, but he may have done himself a favor, because she can't allow it. Now, again, I think it's actually potentially worse because, and again, this is playing chess probably to Lally's checkers, and that's just the way it works. But if that comes in, his opinion on that point will be, pretty silly, as you know. I mean, it's just not. I mean, he's not in a position to give an expert opinion on that based on watching a video and nothing else. But you saw how Jackson was just destroying him yesterday. It happened a week ago. I saw it on court TV. I took these notes. I didn't do this. I don't know. I didn't compare the cars. I didn't. If you're Lally, why aren't you thinking, if that guy gets destroyed on that opinion, then he's a dope. And he's not going to, the jury's not going to say, well, he's a dope on that one, but I'm going to accept the head smash on the curb and bouncing 12 feet based on what? Based on what? Because
physics?
that's what they want.
Nothing to back it. Yeah, just thoughts. The thoughts. What they want. Yeah.
And these guys, they all think they're medical witnesses, and they're not.
They do.
And
Right.
It's ridiculous.
They all have medical degrees from the Massachusetts
Tully and Buconic.
Department of bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
It's like they're making it up. It's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Yuri, are you a medical expert? You're not a medical expert at all. You get a deconstructionist on the stand, and Alan Jackson's asking him a series of questions yesterday. Did you check for this? Did you check for that? Did you compare this against that? And every single answer was no, 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 no. So if you're an expert, as you claim, then why weren't you running these tests? Instead, they're doing this basic level, low level, underhanded type of investigation on this, and then they're passing it off as fact, and they're trying to make it seem like Karen committed a crime that she did not commit, and they keep trying to push this.
And the worst part,
it's sickening and disgraceful. Go ahead, Mark.
The worst part is, and then I'm happy to answer that question, that one that was just up about the stare down. But the worst part about the so-called expert is, I mean, this is just a 85-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle of the plate for the defense in summation. We have experts that we did not even hire. Literally, we did not pay these people. We have them now, but they will establish they came to us, basically. They're not paid experts to give us what we want. Remember the Wendy Murphy theory of every defense
everybody's
paid horror. And so these are not that. And these guys have resumes up the wazoo, right? They're PhDs in this, and they work for the government. Sometimes they work for whatever. And the DA's pushback on this is a guy who took a couple of courses, works for the agency that we've already, in our view, established per se corruption, okay, who recreates an accident based on what other state troopers told him, including the dirty ones.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Who did not go to a accident, which
Mhm.
you usually would want if
Mhm.
possible when you're the police, and then proceeds to say, well, it had to be this, that, and the other. And the worst part is he overcommits. What he should have said was, it could be well, not could be. It's consistent with this because not abs. I'll give you a perfect example.
Absolutely. Don't be absolute.
And he ruined another opinion, which maybe could have been the strongest opinion that he gave if you want to believe that she's guilty. When he said that she was going 24 miles an hour and then it just went down to 23.6 and the wheel moved like in one direction or something, he could have said, based on everything I saw and blah, 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 that's consistent with striking something. But instead, he's like all in, oh, that's hitting someone. It's too far. You don't know that. Or, the injuries were caused by the taillight. Well, the problem with that is there's no shattered taillight.
Yep.
So that
Let me
doesn't apply.
Actually,
let me
Maz,
let me
I gotta hold you right there. We got a bunch of
yeah.
questions that came in. We gotta catch up. I'm gonna be
A
way
stare
behind.
down.
Okay, let me note down what I got to say because I'm not going to forget this. All right, no
You
problem,
could
Mike. I'll stand
you
by.
could
I'll
write
stand
it
by.
down. I
Yeah.
just
So
want to make sure I get these questions in because
the
they're
stare down happened right in front of me, literally. And what happened is, that guy was getting beat up pretty good. And I mean, he sounded, let's be honest, he sounded pretty pathetic. I mean, he was mushy mouth, not making sense, checks and balances, all that stuff. And he got off the stand and he kind of looked and just, it's a tiny courtroom. You have to walk by everyone. And he kind of gave Jackson kind of a little head nod, which was not returned, as I think you saw that. And
right.
he just looked him down the whole way off. Well, he's pissed because he got sandbagged. And it's bad enough that he got sandbagged, but he was getting sandbagged with nonsense. I mean, this is not a real opinion. This is garbage. And they were pissed. And, they should be.
There's another question that came in about can the judge kick out the second degree and just let the jury look at manslaughter?
Yeah. I mean, a judge has the power if she concludes that there's no evidence to support, certain charges, she can. If the medical examiner comes in, which she has to, because the case will be dismissed if she doesn't, she's not going to do that. She'll let the jury take whatever the indicted charges are. That's just the way she is.
No, Maz, you got a question or comment?
No, I don't have I got a comment to make. Is that the Canton Police? Thank you, Mike, for letting me get this in. I want to just make a comment that when they're reenacting her driving in reverse, they're doing it in the Canton Police Department parking lot. Okay, so this gets to a point that
No
Attorney Mark
selling
Bederow was
around.
just making moments ago, which is that they're doing it there. They're not doing it as in the elements of which it happened. Now that can mean many things: daytime versus nighttime, snow versus no snow, location versus not in location.
Not
So
straight. The road is not straight.
anybody that watched Turtle Boy's reenactment of when he went on that road with Richie and they rode the vehicle in reverse knows that the street does not go straight back when you're
Right.
driving in reverse
Right.
towards the house. There is a curb.
Wow.
And when Turtle Boy reenacted that in that video, that right rear tire rolled right onto that curb into that lawn. So they can put whatever reenactment videos they want in court as the prosecution, but they don't have it done organically. To me, that's no different than an inverted video, which is to me deceptive. It's deceptive to the jury because here's the thing, riding in reverse. So here's her rear view camera. Well, that's not good enough for me. You're not doing it on scene. You're not playing a reenactment video before the jury, before the court that actually shows it on site and where that vehicle rolls up on the curb. Furthermore, and additionally, Karen Reed never drove in reverse anyways. And if she did and anything did get registered, it was probably because when she was driving to the house, she had maybe taken a wrong turn or didn't notice a sign because it was dark out at night. Or maybe the GPS sometimes can be a little confusing when it tells you which way you're going. And occasionally you do miss a turn. It happens to me. Occasionally it happens to everybody. One day when I was driving up to the Dedham District Court the first time. I missed the first exit off the highway because the GPS didn't kind of let me know the thing was coming up quick enough. So it happens. It happens a lot. But then they don't tell you what time that happened, where it happened, any of that stuff. There's so much of that laden in this whole thing. Timestamps, locations, when it happened, what day did it happen? You know, when they're reenacting some of these things, when they took pictures of John O'Keefe's vehicle and they were assessing the damage on the vehicle, damage or no damage, when was that taken? If there was damage, did they take it to some kind of private body shop that they're buddies with? Did they buff it out? Did they fix it up? You know, I had rust on my vehicle 10 years ago. I took it to a body shop and they cleaned it all up. I mean, this stuff can be dressed up. So we don't know. Nothing's time stamped. So it's all up for question. It's all up for debate. Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to get that in there. Thank you so much.
Bunch of new comments coming in. Trying to keep up. Please don't get mad at us if we don't read them all. There's so many of them coming in. Boston Ed says the DNA Fingerprint Act of 2005 requires that any adult arrested for a federal crime provide a DNA sample. So if Higgins is charged with misusing federal property to extract cell phone data, could the FBI link him to John O'Keefe's murder?
Well, I mean, if you have, a sample, and that's common when people get arrested. So in, New York State for certain crimes, even just the mere arrest, you can get tested and whatnot. If they have a lawful sample of Higgins, that's great. The next question is there anything to compare it to? I mean, you can't compare two things if there isn't a sufficient amount of DNA in the actual sample found. So, for example, the 3 blood mixture that was found on the pants, I don't recall, to be honest with you, what the testimony was about whether a profile could even be detected other than O'Keefe. O'Keefe was the majority contributor, which means the most, and then they had the mixture with the other 2. But just because you can detect blood and DNA doesn't mean it's quantifiable in an amount that would be sufficient for testing. And if there's nothing to test anyone's DNA against, now at this point, you're not swabbing the door at 34 Fairview. I mean, it's years. It's that, again, most of the forensic evidence is virtually worthless at this point, unless they, dig up the floor and find some crazy item. I mean, I suppose you could try to test that, but that's a little far-fetched at this point. So, they're not arresting Higgins, I don't think, for having his phone messed with by his buddy at the FBI. If they were going to be arresting Higgins, it's going to be for something much, much worse than that.
Excellent. Just looking through the questions. There's so many of them here. I'm trying to find ones that haven't been asked in the past, which is sometimes difficult. Which one was I looking at? How about this one? This is a new one, kind of. Why aren't they taking into account Higgins' Jeep that was supposedly parked out in front of the mailbox? Thank you all for what you do.
I don't know what. That's one of the things that to this day, I'm not sure I understand. I mean, their own witnesses are inconsistent about it. And the only thing I've come up with is what I think a lot of other people have too, is that this case is so flawed and so poorly conceived that in essence, Lally wanted to put the Jeep there to, in essence, impeach his own witnesses, those 3 amigos that we talked about, because they don't support the theory of her backing into O'Keefe. But all of this is the kind of thing that should have been thought out before trial and should have been a red flag to say, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we don't know what the hell happened here. And maybe we're kind of doing something we shouldn't. But I don't get what the purpose of this is. I don't get the Higgins, I tried to do a joke by plowing the driveway when there would have been no snow at that point. I have no idea if somebody else has an idea, I'd love to hear it, because I have none other than I think they want to discredit those 3 kids.
Try to find some other ones. I know I'm missing some super chats here. There's been so many that came in. Do you guys, I mean, I know, well, one thing, you're going on Turtle Boy at 9 p.m. So how much more time do you have tonight, Attorney Bederow?
30 minutes,
30 minutes. Okay.
Till like 8:55, whatever you want. I'm happy to. I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep. Just want to make sure. Do you have any comments or questions, Sumaza? While I'm going through the super chats,
Well, yeah, no, but, yeah. Just, I mean, maybe a
91 of
question
them.
for attorney. Yeah, 91.
91
Right.
super chats right now. It's just we also have 8,000 9,000 9,180 people on YouTube
Wow.
right now. That's amazing.
That's awesome. No, but Jessica Hyde, I mean, I was very thrown off by her when she was on the stand, and it just seemed like, my question for you, Attorney Mark Bederow, is just basically, these witnesses. I mean, they're basically selected and prepped by a prosecutor like Adam Lally. Do you think that maybe he picked her specifically just because she'd give the angle that they wanted as the prosecution?
Well, I think Tully did.
Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah.
Question I have though is, and we don't know the answer, and it wasn't asked on cross, probably because they don't know, and they don't want to get the wrong answer. If Tully was just willing to literally cold call, email a small firm in upstate New York, not that she's not credentialed, then you have to wonder how many other emails did he send out? I mean, was she part of a mass mailing that, like, who wants to help the Massachusetts State Police for $5,000? Figure it out. So, I don't know. And I guess we're never going to know. And I don't blame them for asking, because what if the answer is, just me, whatever. But so I don't think Lally picked her. I think they just had an attorney and witness connection in style a little bit. It was, I mean, look, it was kind of weird, I thought. I mean, very pleasant and I think credible in the sense of not looking to lie. She's tooting her own horn. I don't mind that. She's an expert. No, I'm saying, but she's an expert.
Yeah, no, I know. Her character and personality was noticeable.
I did find the absolutely and a great question. That a little weird, but whatever. It's just people are different. The biggest problem that she's going to have is nobody can understand the wonky.
Yeah.
I think she can only speak in wonky because she's a computer nerd for a living. That's what she does. She understands this stuff. We don't. And I'd be very concerned, if I'm them, that the defense expert speaks in English and that Jackson and Yannetti speak with emotion and speak in English and with common sense and don't have the burden of proof. And that would make me very concerned in a few days or next week or whatever it is, when the defense guy testifies, that all of a sudden this, what they think is powerful evidence right now, is not so powerful.
This is the comment I want to get back to, a question. We've talked about it quite a bit, and they've made, this question keeps coming up, and I think it's a good one. Blood on John O'Keefe clothes that had 2 other contributors besides John O'Keefe. Why is this not an issue in Hammered? How can Commonwealth let this go? Thoughts? I also think of the media. Like, the media's caught on to a lot, but I haven't seen this really beyond our show. Like, I don't see a lot of people talking about
this.
This
is pretty beyond like mainstream Boston Globe, one story a day. That's kind of, really neutral. And of course they have space limits, word limits. And I think this is probably beyond them. Look, what's going to happen here is, in summation, it's in evidence. Okay. His pants had a mixture of 3 on his pants down the front, which is really hard to believe came from a car accident. Okay. The car did not cause John O'Keefe to bleed 3 people's blood on his jeans. Okay. So the defense is going to hammer this in summation and say they didn't do this. None of them did this. And what is Lally supposed to say? Well, it could be from the floor in the hospital. Well, but again, he has the burden of proof, and he's saying maybe it's this. I don't know. The bottom line is they didn't test anyone. Now, could the defense have examined on this earlier in the case, knowing that this was going to come in later? They could have. I mean, I'm not sure why they didn't. I mean, obviously they had a reason or just didn't think of it. But, there's no, I mean, the cops to ask are gone. It would have been Proctor, Tully, those kind of guys. But they still have the evidence, and and what they'll say is there's no evidence that the DA did test it. Okay. There's no evidence that Brian Albert was asked, that Higgins, Colin, and I'm sure they're going to talk about Colin's knuckles and all of that. And the jury is going to look at the DA and say,
Yep.
you're either incompetent, corrupt, or both. I mean, what other conclusion could you draw? Now, if the DA says, well, there isn't a large enough sample to detect, I don't know that they would have known that at the time. Maybe there's other things to compare their DNA against, but don't you try? And what about the sneaker?
Yeah.
The sneaker. Yeah.
Five people? Is that what I heard? Five separate potential profiles in a sneaker?
Yeah.
Now, how does that happen?
Exactly.
Now, by the way, and I don't remember the answer to this. Does anybody remember which shoe? Is it the one that was off his foot? Because that would make me even more
suspicious. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did they take elimination samples? I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. Anytime the cops touch anything,
yeah,
you got to do
Is
elimination.
it Proctor? Is it Buchanan? Is it Tully? Is it one of the forensic people?
Well, yeah, for the taillight. You know, because and by the way, there's a way around that. You just wear gloves, but
Exactly. LT33. He's former law. I think he's current law enforcement. I don't know if he said he's current or former, but he went to same college I did. He says, doesn't the mileage, I'm assuming he's a guy, doesn't the mileage calculations Paul used to calculate where the Lexus traveled contradict the Commonwealth's other argument about her travels in the morning?
I think so, but I think he raises the key point, which is like, does anybody really fully get how this went off? And it was so poorly done. It's wonky. The jury's half asleep. We're all half asleep. And even the keystrokes, I don't think that matched up properly. I don't think anything he said resonated other than, the car was going backwards at 24 miles an hour. And I think he said with the pedal down 75%. I remember that because that's like, okay. But this stuff, it feels like gobbledygook. And the problem is this guy he's kind of a joke. And, we know he did the experiment in the Canton parking lot, the Lexus worked. And I think he answered another question that people were wondering about. I think he confirmed that the car would not stop on its own when it was going to hit something. You would just get a beeping alert, like my car or anyone else's car, but that there was nothing where the car would wrench up and stop. And there's nothing to suggest that feature was deactivated. That would make you start thinking, all right, that's not good. There's none of that. So I'm not sure what he accomplished other than by taking what they told him and saying, oh, definitely car accident, hit him in the arm. That's where he got hurt on the taillight, glass at the car, broke, hit on the side, flipped around, head on the pavement, and then somehow ends up 12 feet away. Who's believing that beyond a reasonable doubt? Knowing what you know with the taillight from the other guy and everything else.
Another question came in. Do we know what kind of currency that is? I'm wondering, Jane, is that like a Irish? I don't know. What is that
pound?
European euro? Is that a pound? I don't know. I want to know.
Maybe that's a euro.
It could be a euro. Jane H sent 5 something euros, I think. She said, did Mark say why he thinks defense didn't ask Tully about taking picture of SUV before towing it? They also have a second follow-up question that says, can Paul see Notes laptop on the defense table?
Can Paul from the witness stand?
No, talking about Paul O'Keefe sitting on the side. Can
No,
that side see the defense info? No, they can't.
No, but also, this is just an interesting observation. They're like a well-oiled, organized machine, as you know, and they have a very clean table. They only have out what they need. They use the floor again, and with binders and all that, but they're, as prepared as you can be, and they have a very clean table, as opposed to the prosecution table, which looks like a paper disaster.
Messy Marvin over there.
Yeah. So no, I don't think they can see anything. I don't agree with everything the defense does, but they have a reason, and we can agree to disagree, or maybe there is no reason. I don't remember them asking any police officers about why pictures weren't taken right away. And I think even more than Tully with Proctor, I thought, given that he said, which I thought was ridiculous testimony, that I concluded this was a car accident right away because he was missing a shoe. And in, the 3 prior cases I've dealt with, I knew that had to be something. And then I spoke to McCabe, and I'm all the way going down to the house, and I'd already called the tow truck. In other words, in his mind, I'm arresting her for this, yet no taillight picture before they tow it. So I don't know why he wasn't asked that. I think that's like the only answer he could give is I didn't. You can grill him on why he didn't do it. There's no good answer, because really, in summation, what he's saying is, take my word for it. And the last person anyone should take the word of, in this case, is Proctor, obviously.
Excellent. Lots of comments coming in. This one says, drug person driving straight back at 25 miles per hour. You know who's good driving that fast in reverse? Police, cops. Good comment, actually. Yeah, you would think someone a little more experienced to be able to drive that fast, backwards, especially.
Yeah.
And you'd think the tires might slip in the snow. That's another good point.
Their test is not a true comparison, and that's going to be part of the cross-examination. You are an accident reconstruction expert, and you did this controlled sample in a fully straight parking lot with no obstacles, no curves, no snow, no nothing. And you're going to compare it to something you don't even know what happened other than what Proctor and Yuri told you.
There was another comment somewhere I lost in the super chats that they were asking whether they might even do a reconstruction, the defense, on breaking that taillight, like at 24 miles an hour, showing that it's impossible.
You know what? They're really, with the tech stuff, as like with this micro dots stuff that they have, you know what? I wouldn't put it past them, like having shock and awe presentations of like really incredible stuff. I wouldn't put it past them. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they did that.
And Lyle would immediately object to it, I'm sure, and try to fight it and do anything he could. But
that probably would have been the subject of a pretrial ruling. I mean, that's something the defense would want to know in advance. But either way, assuming that they have it and it comes in, compare that with like some state trooper in the Canton Police Department.
Right.
Doing it in reverse. My God.
When I first saw that footage, I'm like, is this the Canton Police Department parking lot? They're really doing this right now?
My favorite part of yesterday, by the way, was during the experiment. Everyone's tired. Nobody wants to be there anymore.
Yeah.
He's putting you to sleep, permission to publish. And here we go. And, trooper, what do you see in this picture? I see the steering wheel.
Yeah, I know, right? It was crazy, and it's like, what's this now? It's a dash cam. It's the reverse cam. It's the rear of the vehicle. It's really. I mean, are we really needing to go over this stuff at a minute level?
I don't know if you could see like in the audience, but like next to where we were sitting, I guess directly to my right. So I guess that would be the camera's left. There was about 4 people in a separate section. They're from the DA's office. Okay. And, talk about a penny for your thoughts. It was so tempting. They're young kids mostly.
Yep.
Part of me wanted to look and say, what do you guys think of this? And they would probably think it's great. And then you just want to say, this ain't how to do it. And, someday, you watch what's going on in there. We'll talk and let's have you not do it this way. And I just can't imagine internally what people think of this train wreck, because it's just, there were 4 of them there watching this, and they're furiously taking notes.
Yeah, I was wondering who those people were. Now that makes sense. That
was the
it's like that. There's like a little tape separating.
Tape. That's how the classy courtroom is. They have next to me a piece of like black, almost like athletic tape, taped to the rail across
to separate you.
And then a typed out sign from like a dot matrix printer that says, employees only.
Here's another good question. Can defense use Fed work product like geofence data, or must they get third-party records or other corroborating evidence from the Fed's info?
I mean, whatever the feds gave them, assuming it's admissible, they could use. So it's just a matter of the logistics. Do they have it? If they do they have witnesses available that would be able to use it in admissible fashion? I mean, one of the interesting things to me that I was talking to somebody offline earlier is, I mean, we all generally believe that the feds totally credit the 227 search, right? I mean, we don't know that, but that's the belief. If that's true, the reason for that, it wouldn't be like the defense type expert. It would be an FBI expert. If they have that, I don't know if they do, then it would lead me to think, why don't you call that witness? Now, then the question becomes, how do they describe where they work and all that? You get around that. I work for the government. I don't have to say where. But the point is, if you could get that expert in to say, basically, this is real and here's why, and I work for the federal government, good luck. I don't know if that's logistically possible. I don't even know if they have that, but
Kelly Walsh says, how does the defense wrap up 8 weeks of this nonsense for the jury in closing arguments?
you just give I don't know, probably hour and a half or 2 hour summation from them, I would think. And you just connect the dots, you marshal the evidence, the lack of evidence. I mean, I think certainly the summation is always the best part of any trial. It's the most dramatic. And also in this case, the dichotomy is as off the chart. I mean, the skill set levels in this case are as opposite as, I mean, this is a perfect storm. On the one hand, you have the worst orator, dullard, monotone, dial tone with no, I'm going to white knuckle the podium and just stand at you. And on the other hand, you have one of the smoothest, intelligent, articulate, passionate, charismatic orator. I mean, and it's just, for the jury, for that reason alone, I mean, they're going to gravitate to the defense because if nothing else, it's interesting. Nobody's going to be looking at their watch during Jackson's summation. They're going to be transfixed looking at him. With
It's going to be
Lally,
exciting. It's going to
they're
be
gonna
very
looking at
exciting
the
to watch.
floor. Yep. No, it's going to be an incredible summation to watch.
Must see TV. I
Yeah.
think everyone's going to be.
Yeah.
I think everyone from Boston's going to be watching that. It's
Yeah.
amazing to see the average people now starting to pick up on this, and it really is something to see that people are figuring it out. Caitlin just says, "What is a bumper and what is its function on a vehicle?" Quoting ADA Lally.
I can't. I mean,
I know.
I can't. None of us can. It's what do you even say?
For itself. I just love that on the screen. It just speaks for itself.
That's the submitted without comment, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we got 10. I think that is actually the pound. I don't
That
know
looks
what.
like a pound, I think.
Yeah, that looks like an old British pound. I guess that, yeah, because they left the European Union, didn't they, or whatever they did there. So I guess they have pounds back. Is that sterling silver? I don't know. Leighton says they said only 2 key cycles from 1245 to 1 to Jem M's house, 1 from Jem M to the Meadows, 1 recovery, 1 delivery to Sallyport. Interesting.
There's a lot of discussion, and I'll be honest with you. Yesterday, first of all, I couldn't take notes on anything, and of course, there was a little zoning out. Just because when you're there, it happens. But I know there's a lot of discussion about people have been saying that the key cycles don't match. Like the math doesn't work. And that in and of itself is another reason to just take this guy's testimony and put it in the garbage can. I mean, this is a lot of people have said that they looked at the records and thought it out. And it doesn't make any sense.
That's what Jason B's saying right here too. He said they don't match. They don't match. They don't add up.
Right. That's what people are saying.
Taylor loves AJ. She says AJ's lawyering evokes nerd girl fantasies, while Lally's is a nightmare.
You'll never see polar opposites in one case ever again to this extreme. I mean, on the one hand, you're talking amongst the worst orators versus, on the other hand, one of the absolute best. And that's just such a disadvantage for them. Just terrible disadvantage.
Again, you know what? It again shows you this. Like I go back to this, what you said earlier, the strength of Karen Reed, because that's something I've noticed over the months, like just gaining appreciation for how strong this woman is. Because I know how much shit we've all taken, and she takes so much more shit.
You
And
know,
and
we
she
had
found these guys. She found this defense.
yeah.
Like you know, they didn't come to her. She found them.
You know, we had a conversation yesterday, a private conversation, not case related. There's nothing like that. But I wouldn't share the details other than to say it's stunning when somebody's in this situation to be that determined, strong, calm, focused. Her family, the friends. I mean, it's across the board. They're all like just. It's truly remarkable.
Sure is. People really respect her too. Like it's no doubt about it. Like there's people have watched her.
Yeah, no, it's and you know, you're on camera and you know, I mean, for her, I mean, not the rest of us who go there or whatever, but you're like a zoo animal on display constantly. And at any given moment, you know, the camera could be looking at you, literally just sitting there. You know, and you know what happens. You make one facial expression, they snapshot 20 pictures in a row. They get you like mid muscle moving.
Yeah.
They get this scowl, and then the trolls and whatever are now running around saying you're making. I mean,
Right.
you can't win with this stuff, and yet she's got her head high. And it's funny. I just said that right as somebody commented that, and I think it annoys the hell out of them.
It does, doesn't it? I think that
Just hasn't submitted.
That's what really pisses them off. She hasn't submitted. She hasn't taken a deal. She hasn't backed down.
Yep.
She's strong. She's a strong woman.
Very strong.
She's got great support.
Very smart.
Too, and I think that goes a long way.
Yep,
Not just the lawyers, of course. You have great lawyers. That always helps, believe
Yep.
me. But I mean, her family is just beyond supportive. And you can also see how close they are. And
I mean, they're there every day. Look at the elderly mother and dad. They're there every single day.
Enough how nice her parents are. Like I can't tell you how wonderful they are.
Yep. I can vouch for that 100%, 100,000%. Yep.
I haven't heard one person that's met them that hasn't said the same thing. So it's very interesting how they are just universally people like them.
Yep.
We are getting there. You're going to be on Turtle Boy tonight, which is going to be something. I can't wait to watch that at 9 p.m. with attorney Mark Bederow. So let's wrap this up tonight. What are your final thoughts? Mazda Media first.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it. And it's been a great show, and it's been a very impactful week in a lot of ways. I think that honestly, for many of us, you know, they've been following this thing for a long time. I think this trial is kind of hitting its fatigue stage, where there's a lot of there's a lot of tension right now in terms of just Adam Lally just going on and on and on and on to no end. And you have just an endless list of witnesses here. The defense has established reasonable doubt about 30 times over and no less throughout this course of this trial. And, you know, I think it kind of came through when the way Alan Jackson was speaking and presenting his case to Judge Cannoni at the end of the court session on Friday afternoon, you know, basically by saying you have one witness after another prepped in a certain way. They're almost contradicting themselves. They're doing what they're doing. And as we've seen over and over again, you know, and this has been my feeling quite a bit, is that the judge is the problem here. The judge is the problem because I think there's too much that the prosecution, the Commonwealth's getting away with here, and it's making for a tougher battle for the defense to kind of really just run all the way to the end zone without a flag being thrown. And that has really been one of the big problems. And just even when Alan Jackson was making his case to her, especially about Joe Paul, that, you know, I knew what her response was going to be. Well, you know, sugarcoat the thing, do anything she can to kind of not really acknowledge it, which has been the problem. There hasn't been equal enforcement. And there's been times where, you know, Alan Mullally has objected, and basically she's allowed it to be the question to go through. But other than that, she's basically favoring the prosecution almost by about a 90 to 10% margin. And I don't blame Alan Jackson for being fired up as he's been. Being as animated as he's been, looking at that witness when he was walking off the stand on Friday and really with his arms folded, giving the guy a dirty, fired up look, because it's ridiculous. These people claim to be experts. They get on the stand. They don't even acknowledge that they see a tire moving. It's clear as day that the tire moved. They zoomed in on it. End of discussion on that. And this defense team is doing an awesome job. They have done a fantastic job. They're extremely well prepared. I saw it firsthand, just like Attorney Mark Bederow saw yesterday as well. They are extremely well prepared. They are so focused. Not just the way they walk and talk, but just the way they are prepared is absolutely stellar. This is a team that is prepared to fight all the way as far as they must to protect Karen and support Karen in her fight to be declared not guilty by this particular jury. And I would say again, there's an atmosphere in that court that is just fed up with Adam Lally, and it vibrates right up through that jury as well. Everybody is bored. When Alan Jackson gets up there or the defense gets up there, everybody in that room that is in support of Karen or from the reporter's end of things are more focused. When Adam Lally's in there, it's womp 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 womp. It's boring. It's dragged out. We can't stand it. And I'm looking forward to next week. Here we go. Another week in the trial coming soon.
So I would start with the lawyers. I mean, I know a good lawyer from a bad lawyer. I've seen a lot of both, and I've seen a lot of things. And after meeting these guys and seeing them, actually all three of them, in all fairness, Liza too, they are good. Okay, they are dedicated. They are top shelf, and they're committed, and they're in it personally. Not that it affects them literally, freedom or incarceration, but they are entirely dedicated to the task in hand, which is, making sure the client doesn't get convicted. And so she couldn't be in better hands. That's obvious, and they work together well. Everything with that is good. The only other thought I have for this is, every time something appears to go well for the DA, there's an asterisk next to it, and a lot of these people don't see it, and they think, oh, you're just being too critical because you're in the tank. And if you had evidence, I would, call it what it is. But to celebrate the 227 search based on what happened yesterday is way premature. It is. To celebrate the idea that, there's now conclusive proof that there was a car accident that caused John O'Keefe's death is way premature. To accept the fact that there are 45 pieces of glass that clearly were recovered, well, that's just foolish. I think that's just patently false and common sense and credible evidence. But there's so much more coming, however much or little, from the defense in the next couple of weeks. The accident reconstruction people and their Celebrate expert are probably going to make this worse than it already is for the DA. And then there's the big one that you haven't heard from yet, which is the ME. And what are they going to do? Because at some point, somebody has to testify that these injuries are consistent with a vehicular car going at this speed and da 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 da. And if they want to argue over whether I can call that a homicide or I couldn't tell because you could still back over someone by accident, whatever, put that aside. They were pressured to call it a homicide, and she didn't. And of course, the question is why? And they still haven't answered it. It hasn't come out. And how is the doctor going to say that his body, his center mass, as the guy said yesterday, has no injuries? So where did he get hit? It can't just be the arm, because even then that would be not scratched. That would be bruised and fractured, right? So it just feels like you're circling the drain, and it's just a matter of when it finally speeds up and goes all the way down. This feels like a show trial. It really does. But it's not over yet. So the show will go on for at least another couple of weeks. Yep, you're silenced.
Can't wait till the defense and that summary. The summary is going to be amazing.
Yep.
It's been amazing tonight. I want to thank you both for being here tonight, and we'll be watching you on Turtle Boy Live at 9 p.m. in like 15 minutes from now.
Yep.
So everyone check that out tonight with attorney Mark Bederow, Turtle Boy Live. We're like breaking records again. Over 9,100 people. We almost got to 10 tonight. That gives us something to reach for in the next one. Every show we get a little bigger. We're going to be at 10 next time. This is amazing to be over 9,000 people.
Quick question: how does somebody know I'm watching baseball? Oh, you can see it in the window.
They can see it in the window.
Dark.
There you go. Are you watching the Red Sox?
They're playing the Yankees, but I got to be honest, it's not as interesting as it used to be.
Right. It's not
I'm still
back in the day with Bucky Dent. And...
Oh, come on. We're not talking about the Celtics tonight. That was disgraceful.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night's going to set up for a great ending. I got an announcement for my show tomorrow, if you don't mind me advertising, Mike. Auntie Deb.
Oh, you have her on.
Comedian is coming on the show tomorrow. The one that mocks all the characters.
What time is that on?
6 p.m.
Okay. So how long do you know how long you're gonna be?
I'm thinking maybe 1 to 2 hours. I reached out to another guest.
Because I want to see if you come on my show after too.
Oh, sure.
I'm doing it at
absolutely.
7 p.m. So maybe 8 o'clock if you can.
Well,
if you can.
Yeah. Why don't I do I'll talk to you offline. I'll just do like an hour. I'm thinking about an hour tops anyways tomorrow. So I think that should be good.
Awesome. Well, I thank you both for being here, and we'll all be watching Turtle Boy Live tonight at 9 p.m. with Attorney Bederow. I'm sure you're going to be break more records over there because that was like the biggest Turtle Boy show I think ever last time you were on. So
I gotta change the set. I need to close the blinds, obviously.
There you go. Well, we're looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Attorney Mark Bederow.
And happy Father's Day tomorrow to you, Attorney Bederow, too.
There you go.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. We're the Young Jerks. I want to thank everyone. I got to stop muting that button. I kept doing that. I've been doing that a lot lately because I got the allergies. The allergies are killing me. And then tonight, the dogs were going nuts. You probably heard that. I thought I was muted when I was yelling. That was fun. We had a good show tonight. A lot of Venmos coming in, a lot of super chats. I'm just trying to catch up to them. I want to thank everyone who sent donations tonight. Sorry about that. Let me get in there. You know, I had it right here. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. Venmo contributions. Let's check those out tonight. I want to thank Patty. Patty sent a Venmo contribution. She says it would be great to see Jackson, Little, and Bederow team up together on a case. Another amazing show, Mike. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia, so much. Also had another Patty. 2 Patties in a row. 2 different Patties. Patty M was the first one. This is Patty S. She also sent $10. She says, love your YouTube. You can input that Apple unique identifier at epochconverter.com. It converts to date timestamp. It's a standard Linux time converter. I did it, and it is 2:27 a.m. Wow, Patty, thank you so much. We'll have to check that out. Maybe the defense, they probably already know, but great job, Patty. Elizabeth B sent $25. She says, love your show. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Deborah sent $20. She says, great show. So glad I saw Mark yesterday in Dedham. The free Karen Reed crowd is amazing. Yes, they are. George sent $5. He says, I'm an F you up is the rap about Proctor's testimony, text by Jackson. Yes, we have seen that one. That one is great. Maybe that was what I think Attorney Bederow was talking about earlier. Lisa also sent $5. She said, hashtag free Karen Reed. You guys rock. No, you rock. Thank you so much, Lisa. All right. And John sent $20 the other night. Don't know if we got to thank him. He says, keep rocking. Free Karen Reed. And Lanya also sent $10 the other night. She said, give Mazza a huge shout out. Thank you so much on the Venmo app. Now I'm checking the Cash apps. Got a couple of those. One from Mary Jane. I love Mary Jane, obviously. Mike also sent $25 tonight on the Cash app. A couple of those, 25 and a $5 from Mary Jane. I just want to check their messages really quickly. And again, I want to thank you all for watching and supporting. Over 9,000 of you are watching live on YouTube tonight. I never thought that would happen. It's amazing. Mary Jane says for free Karen Reed, she sent $5. Thank you so much. Mike Walsh also sent $25. Thank you so much, Mike. All right, I want to thank everyone who's been watching, supporting, listening, supporting Karen Reed. Just check out. I think I got a couple more super chats. I think we got a super chat. Brittany said $4.99. She said another great show. We appreciate you all. And you know what's great tonight? Over 9,000 you in the chat. I haven't seen any issues. Hopefully, everyone. All I'm asking you is just be nice. Consider other people, their feelings, especially guests on the show, especially people who have sacrificed a lot for this little movement, like Kathleen. It's not about your politics. I don't care if you vote for Trump, if you vote for Biden. None of us care. We're people on all sides. So let's not bring politics and your crap in to divide people. That's it. Let's treat everyone like the same. We're all on the same goal here. I care about your religion. I don't care about your politics. If you say I'm voting for Donald Trump 2024 in my comments, I don't care. That's fine. Totally fine. That will be okay. And I'm voting for Biden. And I'm not mad about that. That you guys, a lot of you vote Donald Trump. That's fine. Like, that's good. But let's not use these types of division to attack people, especially someone like Mazza Media on our show or Kathleen the other night. That's all I'm saying. Be nice, especially in the chat. All right. Another comment came in and said, will the FBI try to find the real killer if Karen Reed is found innocent? Good question. We talked about this earlier. Teresa said, did they clarify which shoe had blood? Did they test both shoes? Thanks, guys. Enjoy your coverage. I don't know. We don't know. This is a great comment, too, from Sally Port. They say that bumper point is significant. Funnily enough, Lally elicited that a bumper's purpose is to hit things before a taillight does, but not John. That's so appropriate. Yeah, you would think that the bumper would hit John first. Funny how that works, only in some instances. Other people noted, too, like where they were saying the marks came and the collision came from John's car and Karen's car, that it was in the wrong place. Donna, Texas Red said defense has made Commonwealth witnesses their witnesses. Absolutely, that they have. I want to thank all the new members tonight. So many of them. Bees on Mars just became a member. Thank you, guys and girls and ladies, for subscribing tonight. Really love it. I love to see all the people subscribing. We haven't done like a member show yet. We definitely will. I've been trying to hold off until maybe even Karen Reed's over because I don't want to leave anyone out, especially when we get new people every day that are learning about this. I want to include people because, I think we need to keep the pressure on. I think us doing the show, there's a reason we're doing so many shows. We want to make sure that people are aware of what's going on with this Karen Reed case. But I really appreciate all the new memberships, and I appreciate the people that have been gifting memberships. Like I believe Miss Shorty did that again tonight. Thank you so much. It's amazing. It's amazing to see. All right. Tomorrow night, we're going to be back at 7 p.m. Yeah, Miss Shorty gifted 10 Young Jerks memberships tonight. Thank you so much, Miss Shorty. I really enjoy Miss Shorty. She's got her own channel. Check it out. She also just bought a Young Jerks sweatshirt on our merchandise little website that we got there and sent us a picture. It was very nice to see that. Thank you so much. I love when people buy the merch and then send us pictures. It's pretty cool to see you guys wearing it. And I do try to keep the prices down on that merch because I want people to buy it. It's not really about making money on that. All right. I want to thank everybody who's been supporting. Again, we'll be back live tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'm going to be with the hip hop rap artist. He also puts out documentary content. Check him out on YouTube. He's got such great content. I follow him for his music and the documentary series he's done. He's done a movie at one point. Now he's done some documentary stuff on DYS Untold. He's now put out this video and song that references Karen Reed. We're going to close out the show with it. He's going to be on tomorrow night and tell us and talk to us about why he thinks Karen Reed is innocent, how he got there, how he got interested in it. We're going to talk about some of the hip hop stuff, some of the great artists he's performed with over the years. If you're into hip hop, you got any questions for him? He's performed with some big acts. He knows a lot of major people. I'd probably ask him about Styles P myself, because I think he might know Styles P. I like Styles P. But if you have any hip hop questions tomorrow, or if you want to talk about DYS or Middleton jail, maybe he's got a lot of history. So we'll be talking to him. I think attorney Brian Barea is going to be here as well, and we'll see who else tomorrow night, 7 p.m. It should be a fun show. I like the chill shows. We enjoy it. Thank you so much for the comment. Double Dribble says, Mike, you're a great host. I'm okay, especially when I don't mute myself. It's my biggest failure lately. I've gotten into this habit of muting myself too often. Just because I don't want to be sneezing. I got this seasonal thing. Maybe I need to go to the doctor. I'm always like this. Oh, runny nose going. You hear it. I'm not sick. I just got the allergies. The pollen. The pollen has been so bad this year. And also I got the dogs. You heard I got multiple dogs in this room, and as soon as Mama came in, they went crazy. And she has to leave. She's dog sitting somewhere else. So I have some dogs staying here, and I'm actually going off to take a dog out next door as well. So I'm still working tonight, but I'll be listening to Turtle Boy at 9 p.m. And I hope you all do. I'll see you real soon tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Thank you all. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for listening to my little rant tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Or maybe we'll see you in the chat at 9 p.m. for Turtle Boy. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much.